She was the heiress of the Lamb Corporation, but her gentle nature made her vulnerable to the schemes of a conniving woman and her daughter. Step by step, they pushed her to the brink of ruin. Yet, fate had not entirely abandoned her, having granted her a second chance. From this point forward, her life turned a new page. She began her search for someone to rely on, a lifeline in this treacherous world. Originally, their marriage was merely a contract, a union of convenience. Who could have predicted that this pretense would blossom into genuine affection? Join us as we follow this captivating story. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. Beneath a renowned apartment building in the heart of the city, a heartbreaking tragedy had just unfolded. A crowd gathered, drawn to the spectacle of the aftermath. Lying on the ground, amidst a pool of blood, was an unconscious young woman. Unbeknownst to them, her spirit lingered, a silent observer among the onlookers. She couldn't believe the broken body on the ground was her own. "Am I really dead?" she whispered to herself, the question echoing in the emptiness. A wail of anguish pierced the air. "Lam Wenkyo, my child, someone, please call an ambulance." A woman, witnessing the scene, felt not pity, but a surge of annoyance. How unfortunate, she thought, her heart filled with resentment. The Muck family fortune was almost within my grasp, and now she's gone. Beside her, a blonde woman sobbed theatrically. This was Lam Kyo, the half-sister of our protagonist. Despite her outward display of grief, her heart soared with malicious glee. "My dear sister," she thought, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "Only now, with you gone, can I inherit your boyfriend and your fortune." A torrent of memories flooded Lam Wen Kyo's spectral form. Before her mother's passing, she had imparted these words: "My daughter, after I'm gone, you must take care of your father. Be cautious in all things. Remember my words, patience is paramount." Obediently, she had lived a life of quiet forbearance, enduring hardship with stoic resilience. But it seemed the more she yielded, the more others sought to exploit her, heaping blame and scorn upon her. Even now, those harsh words echoed in her ears. "You're the older sister. Why can't you just give in to your younger sister?" Even her boyfriend had betrayed her, seduced by another. "Who would want a boring woman like you?" he had sneered, "if it weren't for the Lam family fortune." They had even conspired to push her towards a repulsive, elderly man named Muck. "Lam Wenkyo," he had threatened, "you'd best obey me and serve me well. Otherwise, I can bankrupt the Lam family at any moment." The more she reflected, the more absurd her own naivete seemed. "Mother," she lamented internally, "I listened to you. I endured a lifetime of suffering, and what did I gain?" The weight of countless betrayals pressed upon her soul. She wished desperately for another chance, a chance to rewrite her destiny. "If heaven grants me another life," she vowed, "I will defy fate itself. I will crush those who brought me to this despair." Tears streamed down her face, her silent sobs lost in the surrounding commotion. Perhaps her tragic fate had moved the heavens, for when she opened her eyes, she found herself inexplicably transported back in time to the day before the tragedy. Clad in a pristine white wedding gown, she stared at her reflection in disbelief. "Am I alive?" A sense of unease washed over her. She rushed to the window, seeking confirmation of her suspicions. Looking down at the wedding ceremony preparations below, she realized with a jolt this was the day of her wedding to Old Man Muck. She seemed to still be in disbelief that she had been reborn. Boldly, she pinched her cheek. The sharp sting confirmed her reality. This wasn't a dream. She was alive again. Walking to a nearby vanity, she grabbed a pair of scissors, and with a single, decisive snip, she cut away the lower part of her cumbersome dress, revealing a pair of enviably long, slender legs. "If heaven has given me another chance," she murmured, "I won't make the same mistakes. This time, I will make you all pay." Having redesigned her dress, Lam Wenkyo cautiously opened the waiting room door, peering out. Confirming the coast was clear, she slipped out and hurried away. Descending the staircase, she heard familiar voices and paused, turning back to look. The voices of a young couple drifted up. "Toai Lam, were you touching?" What if she sees us? The man chuckled darkly. My love, what's there to be afraid of? Today she marries that old freak, Muck. Who knows how long she'll even last? Don't worry, I'll just play the lovesick fool, and she'll go out hand over Muck's money. Then, whether it's Muck's fortune or Lamb's, it will all be ours, won't it? His laughter died abruptly as he noticed her. His face paled. Lam Wenkyo, it's not what it looks like. Let me explain. The woman hastily adjusted her clothing. Sister, why are you here? The panicked man rushed to Lam Wenkyo, embracing her and showering her with placating words. Fearful of her escape being discovered, she didn't immediately confront them. Instead, she demurred, I just wanted some fresh air. Toai Lam, come with me, she said, then added, oh, and would you mind asking the makeup artist to touch up my makeup later? As she walked away with her fiancé, the other woman watched, her eyes burning with jealousy. Let's see how long you can hold on to Toai Lam, she muttered under her breath. Meanwhile, Lam Wenkyo strolled along, idly kicking a small stone with her foot. Toai Lam, she said sweetly, I remember when I couldn't walk, you used to carry me. Could you carry me again? The man, unsuspecting, playfully pinched her cheek. Of course, my love. He walked in front of her and bent down, ready to carry her, oblivious to the triumphant smirk that played on her lips. He had walked right into her trap. With a surge of vengeful fury, she grabbed a nearby rock and brought it down on his head with a sickening thud. You worthless scum. Consider yourself lucky I didn't kill you. The blow knocked him unconscious. Seizing the opportunity, she quickly rifled through his pockets, snatching his car keys. The car sped out of the gates, leaving two stunned guards in its wake. As they realized who was behind the wheel, they erupted in shouts. Someone, stop her. The bride is running away. Her heart pounding, Lam Wenkyo glanced nervously in the rearview mirror, checking for pursuers. Looking back at the road, she gasped in horror as another car rapidly approached. Slamming on the brakes, she squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for impact. This is it, she thought. Just my luck. Reborn only to be killed by a car. After a moment, the expected crash didn't come. Heart hammering against her ribs, she cautiously opened one eye and peered out. The man in the other car, after braking hard, angrily got out and came knocking on her window, demanding an explanation. Lam Wenkyo, her mind racing, stared wide-eyed. What just happened? Even if he'd braked, he couldn't have stopped so perfectly. Did this car have some kind of teleportation function? While she was still reeling, her hand was suddenly pulled out of the car. The man before her had slightly silvered hair. His face, though cold, only accentuated his handsome features. He looked at her with a self-satisfied smirk and questioned, Are you looking for death? Risking your life just to get my attention? A disgruntled voice yelled from inside the other car. Where did this girl come from? How dare she try to scam our deputy CEO foe? The title sparked a memory in Lam Wenkyo, and she froze. So this is the deputy CEO of the Faux Corporation, the largest in City A? He's quite handsome. Too bad he has such a foul mouth. Not one to be easily intimidated, she yanked her hand back. Deputy CEO Faux, I think you're a bit too full of yourself. She was about to say more, but tensed up as she realized the men from the other car had caught up. Miss Lam, please come with us. Seeing the bodyguards closing in, a flicker of panic rose within her. No, I can't be caught. If I am, I'll never escape. I can't repeat the mistakes of my past life. Glancing at Faux, a daring idea sparked in her mind. With a snap of her fingers, she looked at him like a hunter eyeing its prey. Before the astonished gazes of countless onlookers, she swiftly grabbed his tie and planted a kiss on his lips. Faux' eyes widened in shock, completely taken aback by this unexpected turn of events. His face darkened with a mixture of anger and embarrassment. Lam Wenkyo, however, acted as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Casually looping her arm through his, she declared to the bodyguards, Let me tell you, I am now Deputy CEO Faux Woman. Go back and tell old man Muck that I didn't run away, but that Faux Tu Han came to steal me away. Hearing Faux Tu Han's name, the bodyguards broke out in a cold sweat, exchanging wary glances. Is this real or fake? What should we do? Should we take her or not? One of them, intimidated by Faux' reputation, hesitantly replied, How about we go back and ask the boss first? If we offend CEO Faux, we won't have enough lives to pay for it. Having reached a consensus, the bodyguards quickly retreated. Lam Wenkyo watched them go, breathing a sigh of relief. Seeing her plan had worked, she didn't even bother looking back at Faux as she waved and said, Thanks. I'll treat you to a meal next time we meet. Faux Tu Han, His interest piqued, quickly grabbed her arm. With his other hand, he tilted her chin up and said with a cold laugh, "Use me and then leave? Are you trying to play hard to get with me?" Faced with his accusation, Lam Winkyo could only sigh inwardly. "But I really was just trying to escape." She took a few steps back, putting some distance between them. Closing her eyes, she nonchalantly pulled off the necklace she was wearing. "I know I shouldn't have kissed you, but I had to improvise. This limited edition diamond necklace is compensation for using your lips." Her words instantly angered Fo Tu Han, feeling utterly disregarded. "A necklace in exchange for my first kiss? You think too highly of yourself." Lam Winkyo looked genuinely surprised. She stammered in disbelief. "W what? F first kiss?" Doubt not at Lam Winkyo. Fo Tu Han, the notoriously flirtatious deputy CEO, still had his first kiss? Could it be true? A silent prayer for his future wife flitted through her mind. Then she dismissed it. What did it matter to her? The most pressing issue was escaping this precarious situation. Seeing her renewed attempt to leave, he quickly grabbed her arm. "Finished using me, and now you want to run?" he taunted. She spun around, her face creased with anxiety. "Then what do you want?" she demanded, her mind racing. If she didn't leave now, what if they saw through her lie and chased her down? It wouldn't be so easy to fool them a second time. Seeing her distraction, he shoved her back against the hood of the car, a flicker of anger in his eyes. His intense gaze sent an unexpected jolt through her, her heart skipping a beat. A sly grin spread across his face. "Since you're so eager to cling to me," he purred, his voice laced with innuendo, "I'll be sure to satisfy you." The predatory glint in his eyes shattered any remaining goodwill she might have felt. So the rumors about his shamelessness were true. As his lips neared hers, she reacted instantly, a swift kick landing squarely where it would hurt most. Fo Tu Han doubled over in pain, clutching himself. That was all the opportunity she needed. She turned and fled. His assistant, emerging from the car, rushed to his side. "Young master, are you all right?" Fo Tu Han, smarting from the unexpected assault, snarled, "Is that woman insane? I just want her to run errands for me for a day, and she attacks me like that." That evening, a heavy weight settled on Lam Winkyo's heart as she sought solace in a bar. Nursing her drink, she contemplated her situation. She had escaped, but with her current resources, she couldn't possibly change her fate. The alcohol began to fog her mind. Resting her head on the table, she mumbled, "I need to find someone to help me. But who?" A thought jolted her upright. She scanned the room, searching for a potential ally. Her gaze landed on two men, impeccably dressed, sitting on a nearby sofa. She quickly identified her target, Jung Vu, the young master of the most prominent family in Vanton. She studied him, a flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. A marriage alliance with him would provide the security she desperately needed. Across the room, Jung Vu was in the midst of a business discussion when his partner abruptly excused himself. Jung Vu's assistant leaned in, whispering, "Young master, they're like slippery eels. What should we do about this project?" Before Jung Vu could respond, a melodious voice cut through the air. "Lâm Nguyen kiều áp tổ chức gia đình con fin đen." The Jung family's polite approach won't work against seasoned businessmen like these, she stated. The assistant, wary, challenged her. "Who are you, and why are you eavesdropping?" Ignoring him, she turned to Jung Vu, a subtle smile playing on her lips. "I have a solution, but it depends on whether you trust me." Jung Vu studied her for a long moment, as if trying to see through the unfamiliar woman before him. Seeing he didn't refuse, Lam Winkyo took a chance and leaned in, whispering her plan into his ear. Jung Vu listened intently, not missing a single word. When she finished, she winked mischievously and murmured, "Young Master Jung, they're coming back. If this works, remember to buy me a drink." She returned to her seat, but her eyes followed the negotiations unfolding behind her. She felt supremely confident in the plan she'd just laid out for Jung Vu. After all, she'd encountered plenty of these kinds of scoundrels in the workplace while helping her grandfather with company matters. Seeing Jung Vu shake hands with his counterpart, Lam Winkyo practically did a victory dance in her head. Success. Following Jung Vu's instructions, his assistant approached her and respectfully said, "Miss, our young master would like to invite you for a drink." She nodded gracefully and followed the assistant to Jung Vu's table. Composedly, she smiled and offered her congratulations. "Congratulations, young Master Jung." Sitting down with an air of ease, she clapped her hands together. "Oh, right, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Lam Winkyo." Jung Vu's assistant's jaw dropped at the name Lam Wen-Kyo. Oh my goodness, you're the Lam heiress who ran away from her wedding? Lam Wen-Kyo hadn't realized news of her escape had spread so far. Blushing slightly, she nodded. Yes, that's me. But if I hadn't run, my life would have been ruined. She spoke her mind with conviction. Who says a daughter can't inherit the company? Does being a woman mean I have to trade my happiness for the family benefit? That's something I refuse to do. Jungwoo was taken aback by her perspective. Do you really think you can change everything on your own? Lam Wen-Kyo's eyes shone with determination. She smiled confidently. But if I don't even try to fight back, who will help me change things? Her words struck a chord within Jungwoo. Since childhood, he'd been forced to obey his family's arrangements, studying abroad against his will, and even giving up his musical dreams. After growing up, he'd been slotted into the family business, just as they'd planned. Lam Wen-Kyo's story made him reflect on his own life. Could he change too? The atmosphere suddenly grew quiet. Seeing Jungwoo lost in thought, she waved a hand in front of his face. Hey, young Master Jung, what are you spacing out about? He couldn't explain it, but looking at the woman before him, he felt like he was seeing a ray of light. Perhaps she could bring some color into his otherwise bleak existence. Jungwoo didn't want to miss this opportunity. He suddenly took her hand and asked sincerely, It's my mother's birthday this weekend. My family is holding an auction. I wonder if Miss Lam would be interested in attending. He paused for a beat before continuing. Perhaps we could become friends. She responded to his sincerity with a warm smile. Certainly, I'll be there this weekend. Inwardly, she celebrated. Tajda, the plan worked perfectly. Fo Tu-han had just stepped into the hall when he spotted her sitting with a strange man. Anger flared, and he barked her name. Lam Wen-Kyo. Hearing her name called, she turned her head. But before she could clearly see who it was, her left hand was roughly yanked, nearly sending her sprawling. Fo Tu-han, asserting his perceived claim on her, pulled her close. His voice, laced with a possessive tenderness, echoed around them. Darling, if I'd arrived any later, you would have really punished me, wouldn't you? He cast a warning glance towards Jungwoo, deliberately speaking loud enough for him to hear. This morning, you were in my arms, kissing me so passionately. And now, you're holding hands with another man? What's the meaning of this, baby? Lam Wen-Kyo couldn't comprehend the madman's words and struggled against Fo Tu-han's grip. What are you doing? She demanded. He tightened his hold on her hand, a devilish smile playing on his lips. Confessing my feelings for you, of course, he purred, gazing intently into her eyes. Lam Wen-Kyo, he declared, his voice laced with meaning, I like you. He nodded to his assistant, who promptly appeared with a large bouquet of roses and a gift box. Lam Wen-Kyo gapet in astonim. Inside the box was the very necklace she had compensated Fo Tu-han for earlier that morning. He took the necklace and gently fastened it around her neck, his chivalrous gesture eliciting cheers from the surrounding crowd. Oh, Lam Wen-Kyo, sit, wait, and Are you insane? She hissed. As she reached up to rip the necklace off, Fo Tu-han leaned in, his voice a low, challenging murmur, just for her ears. Miss Lam, if you dare remove this, I'll tell old Moo about what happened this morning. Completely checkmated, she accepted the bouquet, clutching it to her chest and feigning the blissful smile of a happy woman for the onlookers. The crowd erupted in applause, congratulating the pair. Master Fo makes his move, and no woman can resist, someone exclaimed. Another voice, laced with suspicion, questioned, so Miss Lam running away from her wedding was because of Master Fo? What juicy gossip. The runaway heiress and the wealthy young master. This will be trending tomorrow, for sure. Zungvush ili chefen demno vanits. He stood up, his face somber. Miss Lam, he began quietly. Thank you for your help earlier. I assumed you were upset with Master Fo and intentionally approached me. He quickly drew a line between them. My offer of friendship was impulsive, so please don't mind it. I have some business to attend to, so I'll excuse myself. With that, Jungwoo and his assistant quickly departed the boisterous scene. Lam Wen-Kyo's meticulously crafted plan, shattered in an instant, left her seething with rage at Fo Tu-han. Without a word, she grabbed Fo Tu-han's arm and dragged him away. The crowd, misinterpreting the scene, buzzed with excitement. Ooh, Master Fo is taking his beauty away for some alone time. Fo Tu-han smirked, waving back cockily. What can I say? My charm is irresistible. Lam Wen-Kyo pulled him to a secluded corner, then, fueled by fury, shoved him against the wall. Slamming her hand against the wall beside his head, she growled, Fo Tu-han. She stepped closer, her imposing presence radiating anger. I don't care why you suddenly decided to confess your feelings in front of everyone, she seethed, but you ruined my plan, and you're going to pay for it. Her dominance caught his attention. He wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her closer. Compensation, you say? He murmured, a playful glint in his eyes. How about you repaying me with your body? His words sent a blush creeping up her cheeks, and she averted her gaze, pushing him away. But then she paused, a thoughtful expression crossing her face as she considered his proposition. A new idea sparked in her mind. A mischievous smile played on her lips. That offer, she mused, isn't entirely unacceptable. With a sudden, playful boldness, she reached up and stroked his chin, her voice echoing his earlier arrogance. Or, she purred, how about you marry me? This time, it was Fo Tu Han's turn to be surprised. She delivered each word slowly, as if teasing him. What do you say, my boyfriend? Her boldness brought a flush to Fo Tu Han's face. He hadn't expected to encounter a woman with such a spirit. Her. How could a woman like her be so unrestrained? As Fo Tu Han stood there, stunned, Lam Wen Kyo delivered a parting shot before leaving. Fo Tu Han, you owe me this. Just wait for my notification. She left, brimming with exhilaration. The Fo family is renowned as the #1 family in Van Ton, overflowing with wealth. Well, the richest family in Van Ton isn't bad. Early the next morning at the Lam residence, Lam Wen Kyo had barely stepped inside when she was met with her father's furious ranting. You wretched child, you caused such a huge mess and you dare to come back. She calmly and leisurely sat down. Nonchalantly, she replied, hello? This is my house. Why wouldn't I dare come back? The scheming younger sister, while pouring tea, chimed in, clinging to her father. That's right, father. Even though elder sister made a mistake, she's still a member of the Lam family. She grew up by your side, the girl blessed by heaven, the one everyone calls a business genius. The Lam family can't do without her. Hearing this, her father became incredibly irritated, slamming his hand on the table with a loud bang. His face, first pale, then turning green, he roared, the Lam family hasn't fallen so low that we need a woman who still smells of milk to shoulder our responsibilities. In his anger, he made a decision. Furthermore, if she can go to the company for training, so can you. Tomorrow, you will go to the company to work. The scheming sister, hearing this, was overjoyed. Father, are you serious? She cast a triumphant glance towards Lam Kyo, who was sitting behind her. Feigning understanding, she brought a cup of tea over, offering it to her elder sister. From now on, I'll have to rely on your guidance, elder sister. Lam Kyo, displeased with this offer, made to stand up and leave. I don't agree. The scheming sister seized this opportunity to play the victim, letting the teacup in her hand fall to the floor. Tears welling up, she pointed at the shattered pieces and cried out, elder sister, what have you done? Lam Kyo, not one to be easily fooled, knowing her sister's schemes, raised her voice first. Heavens, that was father's favorite teacup. If you can't even pour tea properly, how can you possibly handle training at the company? Her unusual reaction left the scheming sister bewildered. Before, she always went along with her father's wishes. Why was she acting so differently now? Lam Kyo squeezed out a few tears, speaking with feigned resentment. You clearly broke it yourself. Why are you blaming me? She channeled the resentment of this life and the last into a single, powerful slap, striking the scheming sister across the face. Ouch, she cried in pain. The scheming sister, clutching her face in disbelief, looked at Lam Wen Kyo, who stood with her arms crossed, a challenging smile playing on her lips. Oh, why don't we both go to father and let him decide? Let's see who he believes. Tears streaming down her face, the scheming sister rushed to her father, sobbing and accusing. Father, look how unruly elder sister is at home. Who knows what she'll be like at the company? Their father frowned, glancing at his eldest daughter, Lam Wen Kyo. Kyo, I think your sister has a point. Behaving like this, what does that leave the Lam family's face? She scoffed at her father's blatant favoritism. With arrogant indifference, she mocked him. Oh, does father really think that sending the daughter of his mistress to discuss business collaborations upholds the Lam family's face? Every successful collaboration relies on her crying, doesn't it? Lam Wen Kyo continued, her face cold. If father wants outsiders to think the Lam family is easily bullied, then by all means, send her to the company. Hearing this, Her father hesitated, weighing the pros and cons. He turned to his second daughter. Kyo, your sister has a point. Perhaps you should continue your training for a while longer. The scheming sister, unwilling to let this opportunity slip away, clung to her father's arm and pleaded, But father abruptly pulled his hand away and left. Seeing her plan fail, she cast a resentful glance towards Lam Wen-kyo. Before she could utter a word, Lam Wen-kyo retaliated, stepping closer and speaking in a challenging tone that was a clear declaration of war. Let me tell you from now on, I won't back down. I don't care what difficulties you and your mother throw my way. That evening, the stepmother, carrying a plate of fruit, entered her husband's study, feigning concern. Lao Lam, she began, I heard Kyo say you wouldn't let her go to the company. Mr. Lam, engrossed in his book, replied, Her abilities are insufficient at the moment. She still needs more training. There's no rush. The stepmother began her manipulative act, clinging to his arm and whining. She could learn at the company, couldn't she? Isn't Wen-kyo also training there? Why can't our Kyo? Her voice dripped with feigned hurt. Mr. Lam, growing irritated, pulled his arm away. Pointing a finger at her, he said with displeasure, All she knows is how to cry and act spoiled. She learned all those bad habits from you. If that's all she can do, how can she handle business matters? She'll only embarrass the Lam family. The stepmother stood up, wiping away fake tears, her voice a mix of resentment and reproach. So you're blaming me now? Who is it that promised to take care of us for the rest of our lives? Mr. Lam, instantly softening, went to embrace her from behind. His tone became much gentler. Xiao Hui, he coaxed. I know, but I only want what's best for Kyo. If she goes to the company now, in her current state, those foxes on the board of directors will tear her apart. I promise you, I'll personally teach Kyo until she's capable. Then, she'll definitely have her place on the board. The stepmother, finally satisfied, embraced him back. You promised, right? As they shared this tender moment, a servant's voice announced from outside. Sir, Madam Fo from the Fo family has arrived. She says she wants to propose a marriage alliance. Both Mr. Lam and his wife were stunned. The Fo family? The richest family in Van Ton. Mr. Lam exclaimed, Go see what's happening. Downstairs, Madame Fo had already been waiting for some time. The table was laden with countless valuable gifts. The stepmother's eyes lit up at the sight, and she greeted Madame Fo with a beaming smile. Oh, Madame Fo, I apologize for not coming out to greet you sooner. Madame Fo, equally delighted, replied, No, it's my fault for arriving unannounced to propose a marriage alliance. Mr. Lam, practically beaming, couldn't stop grinning. Not at all. The stepmother sat down next to Madame Fo and turned to address a servant. Oh, right, Mrs. Lam. Quickly go and call the young miss down. Why is that child so clueless? Madame Fo then revealed her intentions. People say my son is a spoiled playboy, she began, but he's a good boy. He's had countless admirers over the years, but none of them are pure of heart. It's rare for him to confess his feelings for a girl in public. Hearing this news, as his mother, I couldn't resist coming here to propose a marriage alliance. She gestured towards the lavish gifts on the table. This was rather rushed, so I wasn't able to prepare everything perfectly. I hope you'll forgive me. In time, the Fo family will certainly make it up to you. We absolutely won't let the Lam family lose face. Only now did the stepmother get a clear look at the gifts. Her eyes widened in astonishment. Each item was clearly exorbitantly valuable. Just then, Lam Kyo descended the stairs and politely greeted Madame Fo. Madame Fo, her gaze lingering on the young woman, inquired, If I remember correctly, Mr. Lam has another daughter, Lam Wen-kyo, doesn't he? The stepmother's smile froze. She hadn't expected the Fo family, with their immense wealth and prestige, to be proposing marriage for Lam Wen-kyo, not her own daughter. Mr. Lam, his face stiffening slightly, confirmed, Indeed, that's my eldest daughter. He gestured to a servant. Mrs. Lam, please go and call my eldest daughter down. Lam Kyo's face darkened with resentment. The stepmother, unwilling to lose such an advantageous marriage prospect, began singing her own daughter's praises. Madame Fo, you see, our Kyo has received an excellent upbringing since childhood. She's not only intelligent, but also well-mannered and extremely obedient. As for Wen-kyo, she lost her mother at a young age and doesn't listen to me. She squeezed out a few tears, feigning distress. As the old saying goes, being a stepmother is difficult. I only truly understood this after marrying into the Lam family. She was about to continue her lamentations when Gwyn Kyo's cool voice cut her short. If being a stepmother is so difficult, then don't be one. If you have the guts, divorce my father. With an air of haughty composure, she sat down and added with a touch of sarcasm, "Oh yes, Kyo is intelligent, well-mannered, and obedient. That's why she was able to steal her older sister's boyfriend." Realizing her slip-up, she corrected herself. No, ex-boyfriend, I should say. Lam Kyo, stung by the accusation, pointed a finger at her older sister, ready to retort. "You're lying. Brother Toei Lam only cares for me more because he pities me." Gwyn Kyo, too weary to argue with this green tea girl, simply offered a cold laugh. "Oh, so it's pity then?" Gwyn Kyo stood up and bowed to her future mother-in-law. "I apologize for this unseemly display, Madame Faux." Madame Faux, a smile playing on her lips, waved her hand dismissively. It's all right. Her gaze scrutinized Gwyn Kyo, and she made a silent assessment. "This girl's personality suits me quite well. It seems that my rascal of a son has found a treasure." Seeing that it was getting late, Madame Faux rose to her feet. "Well, in-laws, I won't disturb you any longer. I'm very pleased with Gwyn Kyo as my future daughter-in-law." She added, "In a few days, I'll have my housekeeper prepare the betrothal gifts and formally propose the engagement." Behind her, the stepmother, unwilling to accept defeat, called out, "Madame Faux, our Kyoko?" Seeing this, Gwyn Kyo gave a disdainful smile and quickly moved to Madame Faux's side. "Allow me to escort you out, madam." Madame Faux beamed. Certainly. Only the stepmother and her daughter remained in the living room. Unable to contain her frustration, Lam Kyo burst into tears. "Mother, how can she marry young Master Faux? How am I inferior to her?" Her mother soothed her. "Don't cry, Kyo. You're the most outstanding girl in Vanton." Wiping her daughter's tears, she added with a sinister glint in her eyes, "Don't worry, this isn't over yet." Lam Kyo stopped getting. "Mother, do you have a plan?" They whispered conspiratorially about switching a black cat for a prince and swapping regular rice for glutinous rice. Lost in their scheming, they were oblivious to Gwyn Kyo, who had witnessed the entire scene. A cold smile played on her lips as she thought, "I knew you wouldn't give up so easily. In that case, I'll have to pay my future mother-in-law a visit tomorrow. This marriage is as good as mine." That evening, as Lam Gwyn Kyo was just drifting off to sleep, her phone rang. She answered, and Fo Tu Han's voice filled her ear. "Lam Gwyn Kyo, come down sti. I'm in front of your house." She hung up, a smirk playing on her lips as she sat up. "He got here pretty quickly," she mused, a hint of amusement in her voice. In front of the Lam family estate, Fo Tu Han leaned against his car, his expression impassive as he stared ahead, lost in thought. Gwyn Kyo hadn't bothered to change, simply throwing a coat over her clothes. Strangely, seeing him like this, she didn't feel the same animosity she once had. He wasn't bad-looking. Marrying him wouldn't be such a loss after all. She approached him, placing a finger playfully over his heart. "Fo Dai, Thew," she said, her voice laced with a teasing lilt. "Aren't you afraid of being seen coming to find me so late?" His brows furrowed in a frown. He caught her playful hand, his expression serious. "I came to ask you to talk to my mother about calling off the engagement. It would be better for your reputation if you were the one to break it off." "I'm not worried. I lost my reputation a long time ago." Gwyn Kyo was surprised by his consideration. She'd been scheming against him, and yet he was still thinking of her reputation. She pulled her hand free, her voice firm. "What if I still want to marry you, Fo Tu Han? I told you, you have to compensate me." He hadn't expected her to be so stubborn. Without a word, he pushed her against the hood of his car. A blush crept up in Gwyn Kyo's cheeks. "Oh, and how does Lam Tu Thursday want me to compensate her? Physically? Emotionally?" After a moment of flustered silence, she regained her composure, looping her arms around his neck. "Neither. Fo Dai, Thew only needs to marry me. I'll take care of the rest. I'll even help you deal with your mother and gain control of the Lam family." Understanding dawned on his face. A marriage of convenience? And why should I trust you to help me? Gwyn Kyo spoke sincerely. "I've already accepted the betrothal gifts. I'm not going to help Lai Toei Lam against you, am I?" A flicker of guilt pricked her conscience. "In my past life, I was blinded by love and helped Lai Toei Lam almost ruin you. This time, things will be different. Fo Tu-han considered her words, a thoughtful expression in his eyes. Suddenly, he straightened up and barked, "Get in the car." He strode to the driver's side and opened the door. "I'll pick you up tomorrow to talk to my mother about calling off the engagement." Fo Tu-han's car sped away, leaving Lam Nguyen-kyo standing there, a smile playing on her lips. "I'll make you agree," she murmured. The next day, at the Fo family villa, Lam Nguyen-kyo entered the villa on Fo Tu-han's arm. As they stepped inside, his mother rushed forward, beaming. "Kyo, you're here," she exclaimed, welcoming her future daughter-in-law warmly. "Lam Nguyen-kyo chatet amiali with Madame Fo. I've asked the kitchen to prepare your favorite dishes. You must stay for dinner." Fo Tu-han leaned in and whispered in Nguyen-kyo's ear, "Don't forget what I told you yesterday." Lam Nguyen-kyo, with a playful wink mouth, "What are you going to do about it? I'm not afraid of you." Then, with an air of nonchalance that belied Fo Tu-han's simmering rage, she took Madame Fo's arm and swept into the house. Fo Tu-han, practically fuming, could only point a trembling finger, speechless with indignation. "Just you wait," he seethed, his fury bubbling beneath the surface. He ground his teeth. "That little wretch! How dare she mock me? Fo Tu-han, the Shao family won't save her. I'll make sure of it. Without a groom, let's see how she gets married." Unable to contain his frustration any longer, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Outside, his anger still palpable, he answered his phone. "Hello, meet me at the bar tonight. We're buying a car, and we're not leaving until we're drunk. See how that's showing. Min wihin, insai, Lam Nguyen-kyo sa chatting with Madame Fo. My mother's health hasn't been good, especially after she learned about my father's affair years ago. So, I've been living with my grandfather. The day Tu-han and I met, it was fortunate he was there to save me." Fo Tu-han, driving, sneezed repeatedly. "Who's talking about me? Goodness, they won't stop." Madame Fo, after hearing Nguyen-kyo's story, finally understood. "Imagine, it seems you and Tu-han were destined to meet. Don't worry, child. From now on, you're family. Anyone who bullies you, bullies the Fo family." "What's this?" Lam Nguyen-kyo, her eyes sparkling, looked at Madame Fo. "Annie, I agreed yesterday, mostly despite my stepmother. But I know Tu-han doesn't really want to rush into this engagement. I understand, and I don't want to force him. So perhaps." Madame Fo reached out and took Nguyen-kyo's hand. "Silly child, what are you saying? He's just being dense." Then, pulling out her phone, she turned to Lam Nguyen-kyo. "Don't you worry. I have a plan." She dialed a number. "Hello, Shally? Where is the young master?" At the same time, in the bustling bar, Fo Tu-han, thoroughly inebriated after several drinks, was presented with the bill. "Mr. Fo, your total is 237,836 NDT, the server announced. With an air of practiced nonchalance, Fo Tu-han pulled out his black card. "Charge it." The card was swiped, and a chilling message appeared. "Card declined." The server's face paled. Flustered, she returned to Fo Tu-han. Mr. Fo, your card has been declined. Perhaps you have another." Fo Tu-han, a flicker of unease in his eyes, produced several more cards. "How about these?" he offered. A tremor of fear ran through him. Surely mother wouldn't freeze all my accounts, he thought. After trying every card, the server, now drenched in sweat, stammered, "And none of them are working. Perhaps you should call someone?" His friends, growing impatient with the delay, called across the room. "What's taking so long, Fo? Did your family cut you off? Don't tell me. If so, why did you drag us out here? To split the bill with you?" Stung by their taunts, Fo Tu-han rounded on them, his voice laced with anger. "What did you say? Don't talk to me like that. Haven't I always treated you well? Who paid for all those girls, huh? Remember that." Suddenly, a voice called out, "Tu-han." Lam Nguyen-kyo, seemingly anticipating the moment, walked over and handed Fo Tu-han a black card. "You took the wrong card out with you," she explained. "A few days ago, I picked out some bags and used the supplementary card, so I went over the limit. I forgot to tell you today." Lam Nguyen-kyo then turned to Fo Tu-han's friends and introduced herself. "Hello everyone, I'm Lam Nguyen-kyo, Fo Tu-han's fiancé. I apologize for interrupting your fun. I'll cover the next round of drinks. Everyone, please, drink freely. Don't hold back." Lam Nguyen-kyo dun bak to Fo Tu-han spoke sopti. "Tu-han, your mother is waiting for us at home for dinner. Let's go." Fo Tu-han, his face flushed from the alcohol and perhaps a touch of embarrassment, stammered, Oh, all right. The two of them returned to the Fo family villa. As the car pulled up to the closed gates, Fo Tuhan got out and called out loudly, Hey, open the gate. Young master is home. Hey, is anyone there? Hurry up and open the gate. Suddenly, Fo Tuhan's phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Lai Ka. The message read, Young master code red. Madam is serious this time. She's furious and said if you don't get married, don't bother coming home. You're on your own. Fo Tuhan gritted his teeth in anger. Lum Nguyen Kiu. The scene shifted to Lam Nguyen Kio's house. Fo Tuhan had called her and told her to come downstairs. Throwing on a jacket, a sleepy-eyed Lam Nguyen Kio made her way down. Fo Tuhan, are you sick or something? Why do you keep calling me out in the middle of the night? As soon as the words left her mouth, a prenuptial agreement was thrust in front of her. A prenuptial agreement. Take a look. If there are no problems, sign it quickly. Lam Nguyen Kio was taken aback. Whoa, what did you do to make him agree so quickly? Fo Tuhan replied wearily. Don't think I don't know you're the one who had my cards frozen and told my mother not to let me come home. Understanding dawned on Lam Nguyen Kio. She closed her eyes and retorted, Fo Tuhan, do I absolutely have to marry you? I'm not afraid to tell you the truth. Initially, I wanted to use the Yang family's influence to help myself, but you interfered. Not to mention you agreed to compensate me. Even if I did want to exploit the Fo family's power, wouldn't it be more valuable to win over Madame Fo and become her adopted daughter than to marry you? Fo Tuhan's mind raced with questions. What am I good for anyway? Am I not ambitious enough? Do I lack moral fiber? Is it my temper? Fo Tuhan felt his head about to explode. Oh God, stop, just stop. After her tirade, Lam Nguyen Kio finally paused. She looked at Fo Tuhan and said, Fo Tuhan, tonight you saw those useless friends of yours. You saw how they behave. It's disgusting. Your mother has been supporting the Fo family for years, and it hasn't been easy. Do you think those old foxes on the board of directors are easy to deal with? Lam Nguyen Kio con tin ho let the. Since you can't help your mother, at least don't cause her more trouble. Grow up a little, my dear Fo family young master. As she spoke, Lam Nguyen Kio picked up the contract and signed it. For 2 years, if you want me to help you share the burden for your mother, I will. But I hope you can also walk the walk. Help me regain control of the Lam family fund. After singing Lam Nguyen Kio li nit in ko to fo tu hun she fai. I can't let what my mother single-handedly built be handed over to someone else, she said, handing in the contract. Fo Tuhan replied, Happy cooperation, dear wife. Lam Nguyen Kio echoed, Happy cooperation. Suddenly, the phone in Lam Nguyen Kio's pocket vibrated. Answering the call, she found it was her friend, Tran Tran. Are you going to Madame Jung's charity birthday party tomorrow afternoon? I know you never like those. Lam Nguyen Kio immediately replied, Of course, why wouldn't I go? Tran Tran sounded surprised, but you've always disliked these social events. Lam Nguyen Kio answered, No, not only will I go, I'll go with a grand, attention-grabbing entrance. So, the next day, Lam Nguyen Kio arrived at the charity gala. The venue was already bustling with guests. Lai Toai Lam and Lam Kio Kio were locked in an embrace. Honey, behave. What if someone sees us? He murmured. He replied nonchalantly, Then I'll make it up to you later at home. Just then, Lam Nguyen Kio and Tran Tran entered from the doorway. Sang Lam Nguyen Kio, Bot Li Toai Lam En Kio Kio Wis Tatang. Sister, why? Why are you here? Facing Kio's question, Lam Nguyen Kio looked at the two of them and said, If I hadn't come, I wouldn't have witnessed this tender scene between you two, would I? Lam Kio hurriedly waved her hands, trying to explain. Sister, you misunderstand. You never wanted to attend these social gatherings, so I had to accompany Brother Toai Lam. He even praised me for it. In her mind, Kio thought, Sister, what you don't know is that even before you and Brother Toai Lam broke up, his technique in bed was amazing. We could go 300 rounds and still not be tired. She then snuggled back up to Lai Toai Lam, clinging to his arm. Lam Nguyen Kio walked over and delivered a resounding slap to Kio's face. Are you implying I'm petty? Lam Kio, tears welling in her eyes, clutched her face and sobbed. I didn't mean that. Lam Nguyen Kio's face was cold. Unable to win favor at home, you're the same outside. Standing behind, witnessing Lam Nguyen Kio's stunning performance, Tran Tran was utterly shocked. Her Kio had finally stood up for herself. Observing the scene, Lai Toai Lam's face was etched with worry. He thought to himself, that damned woman. If I can't squeeze a few billion out of her, I'll have wasted all the poison I poured in her head. Suddenly, Lai Toai Lam pushed Lam Kio's hand away and rushed towards Lam Wen Kyo, attempting to grab her hand. But she quickly withdrew it. Kyo, he said, if I'd known you were coming, I would have invited you and your friend to come with me. Lam Wen Kyo feigned unfamiliarity and replied, do you seem to have forgotten what you said when I was forced to marry Mr. Muck? Lai Toai Lam lunged forward again, trying to seize her hand. His face was a mask of sincerity, a true actor at work. With a tearful expression, he pleaded, you know how powerful Mr. Muck is. How could I possibly defy him? It broke my heart. I regretted it so much, but there was nothing I could do. He then threw his arms around Lam Wen Kyo, sobbing dramatically. But when I saw you so distraught, unwilling to marry him, I realized how much I love you. Kyo, let's not break up, okay? Lam Wen Kyo overheard Lai Toai Lam's shocking words. She thought to herself, what on earth did I ever see in them? This is utterly absurd and unacceptable. Then, putting up a fight, she exclaimed, let go of me. Who are you? I don't know you. Get away from me. Is Lam Wen Kyo en Li Toai Lam Stu Lao, Jen Zu Set Forward To Interven. Immediately, the younger Kyo also jumped in, trying to stop her. Zheng, my sister and Lai Toai Lam are getting back together. You shouldn't interfere. It's not appropriate. Kyo retorted. Do you want her to be with that man? As they pushed and shoved, a hand suddenly grabbed Lam Wen Kyo's arm. It was Fo Tu Han. With a stern expression, he pulled Lam Wen Kyo towards him. Stop putting your hands on someone else's fiancée. That's a dirty trick. I wonder how much cleaner Mr. Fo, who sampled thousands of flowers, is than me. Provoked by Lai Toai Lam's taunts, Fo Tu Han walked towards him, a smirk playing on his lips. What I do is my business. But now she's mine. Lai Toai Lam was furious but could do nothing. He just stammered, you. Relieved by Fo Tu Han's intervention, Lam Wen Kyo looked at him with admiration and gratitude. Fo Tu Han had successfully rescued the two women, and they headed towards the exit. Lai Toai Lam stood behind them, his fists clenched, trembling with rage. I will definitely repay this debt many times over, he seethed. The scene shifted to the auction. The auctioneer presented the final item. This is the gold diamond ring worn by Lady Aji in the 14th century. The starting price is 5 million yuan, with minimum increments of 1 million yuan. Upon hearing about the diamond ring, Lai Toai Lam raised his bidding paddle. Mr. Lai bids 5 million yuan. He turned to Lam Wen Kyo. Kyo, I remember you used to love this diamond ring. I'll bid on it for you. Lam Wen Kyo didn't respond, only offering a slight smirk. As soon as he finished speaking, Fo Tu Han made his move. I bid 10 million yuan. Refusing to be outdone, Lai Toai Lam immediately countered 12 million yuan. Fo Tu Han raised the stakes again, 15 million yuan. Lai Toai Lam responded with 18 million yuan. Fo Tu Han Zito, Haimu Min Duan. After a fierce bidding war, Lai Toai Lam finally faltered at 20 million yuan. He looked at Lam Wen Kyo with a helpless expression. Mr. Fo bids 20 million yuan. Are there any other bids? Thoroughly humiliated, he turned away, unable to meet Lam Wen Kyo's gaze. Lam Wen Kyo suddenly raised her paddle. 25 million yuan. Fo Tu Han followed suit. I bid 30 million yuan. Everyone expected Lam Wen Kyo to continue bidding, but she was stopped. Sitting behind her, Tran gasped. Oh my God, Mr. Fo is so rich. Meanwhile, Lai Toai Lam thought, he's just a brainless spendthrift. The auctioneer called out, 30 million yuan. First call, 30 million yuan. Second call, 30 million yuan. Third call, sold. The diamond ring now belonged to Fo Tu Han. Young Master Fo turned to Li Toai Lam. Just now, I heard Mr. Li say he wanted to give this to Wen Kyo, so I thought I'd raise the price to see just how sincere you were. As he spoke, Fo Tu Han tossed the ring box dismissively over his shoulder. But I never expected your love to be so shallow. He hadn't thrown the ring itself, only the box. Fo Tu Han held the ring in his hand. It's not really worth that much, he said, then walked over to Lam Wen Kyo and slipped the ring onto her finger. As long as Wen Kyo likes it, any price is worth it. Down below, Tran, clutching her bidding paddle, hooped like a madwoman. The sweetest, most affectionate couple. Watching the two young men's fierce competition for Lam Wen Kyo's favor, the surrounding crowd murmured amongst themselves. That Lam girl is quite manipulative, making two men fight over her. Xiaoyu, you must stay away from her. Xiaoyu pondered this for a moment, a thoughtful expression on his face. Lam Wenkyo, is she really that kind of person? The scene shifted to the Lam family villa. Fo Tuhan had driven up to the gate. "We're here," Fo Tuhan said. Lam Wenkyo, sitting beside him, nodded in agreement. "Yes." She took out a black card and handed it to Fo Tuhan. "I can't let you pay for the ring tonight, Mr. Fo. Here's your money back." Fo Tuhan closed his eyes, a smile playing on his lips. "Miss Lam, what's the meaning of this?" He looked at Wenkyo. "Are you not satisfied with my performance tonight?" Before he could finish, Wenkyo placed a finger on his lips and made a hushing sound. "If word of this gets out, people who don't know us will think you're a kept man I paid for." Fo Tuhan captured her hand in his, gazing at her with adoration. "I'm a good boy waiting for a treat. So, Miss Lam, are you satisfied with my performance at the party tonight?" Wenkyo simli ziplit chilit. She pulled her hand back, making Fo Tuhan let out a small, surprised sound. Feeling slightly awkward, he looked away. "It's getting late. You should go in and get some sleep." Wenkyo was taken aback by his sudden shyness. She looked at him with a curious gaze. "I didn't expect young Master Fo to have such an innocent side." She paused, then voiced her thoughts. "But I appreciate it. Thank you for helping me tonight. Can you take the card now?" Fo Tuhan listened to her words, realizing how different she was from the other wealthy heiresses he'd met. He coughed a few times. Turning back to Wenkyo, he said, "No need. Consider it a betrothal gift from me to you, Miss Lam." The scene changed to the next morning. Wenkyo, still half asleep, answered the phone. "Hello." Tran's urgent voice filled her ear. "Gyu, you have to see the news. Your Fo Tuhan and Li Toai Lam are trending." Lam Wenkyo's eyes open. "Stop talking nonsense, Tran. Who said Li Toai Lam is mine?" Ziblit ohat, so do you mean Fo Tuhan es zo ten? "I used to wonder why you were with that playboy rich kid, Fo Tuhan. Now I know you have good taste. Anyway, just check the news. You'll see." Taking her friend's advice, Wenkyo immediately opened the news. The headline screamed, "Mr. Muck, the biggest clown?" Miss Lam, fresh from a broken engagement, attracts two young masters, Fo and Lai, who spend lavishly just for a smile from the beauty. What kind of news is this? Lam Wenkyo sigh, closing her eyes. This time, I've completely offended Mr. Muck. Meanwhile, Lai Toai Lam, upon hearing the news, gnashed his teeth in fury. "Just wait until I get my hands on the Lam family's assets and add them to my own Lai family fortune. Then I won't be afraid of that Fo Tuhan. This humiliation, I will repay it tenfold." The scene shifted to Mr. Lam's residence. A roar echoed from the phone he'd just answered. "Lam Ti Mian, what is the meaning of this news today? Is Lam Ji a cat trying to make me lose face?" Mr. Lam, beads of sweat forming on his brow, stammered, "It was my failure to properly discipline my daughter, Mr. Muck. Please calm your anger. I will have Wenkyo come and apologize to you personally." From the other end, Mr. Muck retorted, "Humph, an apology? How will that compensate me? Don't forget, your Lam family still owes me a wedding. I hear your Lam Corporation hasn't been doing too well lately. What if I decide to?" Mr. Lam quickly interjected, "Please rest assured, Mr. Muck, our Lam family will certainly prepare the wedding again. Would you be available tonight? I will bring Wenkyo to apologize in person, and we can discuss the wedding arrangements then." The moment he hung up on Mr. Muck, Mr. Lam, consumed by rage, hurled his phone across the room. "Someone, where's everyone? No one is to answer the eldest daughter's calls. And from this moment forward, without my express permission, no one is to step foot outside this house." A servant's voice replied, "Yes, sir." It was now midday at Lam Wenkyo's villa. Tran, arriving for a visit, was stopped at the gate. "I'm sorry, miss, but our eldest daughter isn't feeling well and is unable to receive visitors. Please return." The guard stated, his arms crossed. But, Tran protested. "When I called this morning, she was fine." The guard remained impassive. "I'm sorry, Mississippi. Please return. The eldest daughter cannot see you." Faced with the guard's unwavering stance, Tran had no choice but to retreat. She thought to herself, "This isn't like Kyo. Even if she were sick, she wouldn't refuse to see me. Something's definitely wrong." After a moment of reflection, a thought suddenly struck her. She hurried back to her car and sped away. Meanwhile, at a billiards hall, Fo Tuhan was engrossed in a game. Suddenly, Tran burst in, snatching his cue. "Young Master Fo, you have to save Kyo. She's locked up at home. I can't reach her." I think her father is trying to force her to marry Mr. Muck. Pho Tu-han paused, a look of disbelief on his face. With her skills, Lam Ti-min could lock her up. She ran away from one wedding. She can run away from another. He thought to himself, this young master's first kiss was stolen the same way. Tran, infuriated by his nonchalant response, slammed the cue onto the table. I told you, you're a playboy. A leopard can't change its spots. And Kyo said you weren't like that. She was clearly blind. After Tran's outburst, she turned and stormed off, fuming. One of the bodyguards standing behind Pho Tu-han spoke up. Young Master Pho, shall we continue the game? Pho Tu-han waved a dismissive hand. Continue what? If I keep playing, I'll lose my wife altogether. You all carry on. I'll cover the bill. Meanwhile, Lam Wen-kyo sat at a table, lost in thought. After a moment, she rapped her knuckles on the surface, stood up, and crumpled the piece of paper in her hand. Kyo was clearly plotting something. Crumpling the paper tighter in her fist, Kyo continued to contemplate her plan. With surprising agility, she used her strength to climb down a rope from the second floor, landing swiftly and silently on the ground below. Just as she reached the door, a voice called out from behind her. Eldest miss, where do you think you're going? When Kyo turned to see Mr. Lam standing there, she stammered, Mr. Lam. When Kyo tried to explain, I was just getting some fresh air. Mr. Lam's voice hardened. The old madam has given orders. As he spoke, when Kyo seized the opportunity to surreptitiously toss the crumpled paper behind her towards the door. The paper fluttered out the door and into the hallway. When Kyo was apprehended and escorted back to her room. Inside, a family meeting was already in progress. Madame Lam declared, the Mu family is prominent and wealthy. Their estate is vast. Marrying into their family is hardly a disadvantage for Kyo. Mr. Lam, however, exploded. That spoiled, incorrigible girl, climbing down from the second floor. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, Kyo was weeping dramatically in front of her mother. Her recklessness is going to bring ruin upon us all. What kind of logic is that? When Kyo, however, remained remarkably composed. She waved her hand dismissively. Well, if you're all so happy and harmonious without me, I'll just be going then. As she turned to leave, a voice roared, stop right there. She turned back to see Madame Lam pointing a finger directly at her face. I forbid you to leave, she thundered. You're just like your mother, beautiful, but utterly without manners. Wen Kyo calmly retorted, yes, my mother came from a respected and influential family. She was above such petty squabbles. Unlike you, grandmother, having tasted a little power, now throws your weight around like a tyrant. Madame Lam, enraged, hurled a glass at Wen Kyo. With cool composure, Wen Kyo swayed to the side, but the glass grazed her head, drawing blood. Unfazed, she turned back, her eyes blazing. Have you forgotten, grandmother, she said icily, that everything you have, everything you eat, and the roof over your head belongs to grandfather? And in his will, written in black and white, the heir to the Lam Corporation is me, Lam Wen Kyo. Madame Lam, speechless with rage, could only sputter. You, Lam Ti-min, Kyo's mother, lunged forward, ready to strike. You disrespectful wretch. How dare you speak to your grandmother that way? When Kyo met her gaze unflinchingly. Go ahead, hit me, slap me, and tomorrow I'll inform the board of directors that you physically assaulted the heir to the Lam Corporation. Madame Lam, trembling with fear, cried out, enough. Your father manages the company now because of grandfather's will. When Kyo continued, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Don't think you're the only one with grandfather's support. But for the sake of the Lam Corporation, for the sake of the entire family, Madame Lam pleaded, you must divorce Mu. You must attend dinner with him tonight. Wen Kyo's voice was thick with disgust. Shameless, she spat. That evening, in a VIP room at the Tui Hoa Hotel, the fateful meeting took place. Mr. Mu, seated at the head of the table, spoke first. With Madame Lam's assurance, he said, I am relieved. Madame Lam replied, Mr. Mu, the Lam family was undoubtedly in the wrong. We will, of course, provide you with a proper wedding ceremony. The lecherous Mr. Muck grabbed Wen Kyo's hand. Kyo, he said, don't worry. Just Just wait until I deal with that guy, and then I'll definitely treat you well. When Kyo seethed at his touch, barely suppressing the urge to lash out at the old man, her body trembled with revulsion. She remembered how this fat pig had tormented her before. This whore, I've given you so many drugs. Why isn't there any sign of progress? He'd sneered. He had used every method to torture her. Want to eat? Serve me well, Kyo, and this will all be yours. He'd taunted her, dangling a piece of bread just out of reach. He continued his torment. Suddenly, a voice called out, Kyo. There was no answer. The voice called out again, more urgently, Kyo, Lam Wen Kyo. She jolted back to reality to find Fo Tu-han standing before her. What are you doing here? She asked, bewildered. Fo Tu-han immediately took her hand and pulled her towards the exit, ignoring Madame Lam's furious outburst. You arrogant brat! How dare you disrespect the Lam family like this? She shrieked. But Fo Tu-han remained impassive. He continued to pull Wen Kyo along, his grip firm. A bodyguard stepped inside and tossed a document onto the table. Take a good look, he commanded. This is the notarized annulment agreement, signed and sealed by Muktan. Anyone who tries to stop us is making an enemy of the Fo family. Fo Tu-han had now led Wen Kyo out of the hotel. Noticing her fear, he thought to himself, what has she been through to have such a look of despair and terror in her eyes? He gently stroked her hair. Lam Wen Kyo, he said, why don't we register our marriage? That way, at least no one will be able to bother you anymore. Wen Kyo's response was immediate and unexpected. I refuse, she said. Fo Tu-han frowned, a flicker of anger in his eyes. Do you even understand what's going on? I'm not rushing to marry you because, he hesitated. Wen Kyo closed her eyes, her expression serene. I know, she said softly. I know you're doing this for my own good. She opened her eyes and looked at him. Fo Tu-han, I'm very grateful, but I have my own reasons. She trailed off, unable to finish her sentence. Suddenly, a voice shouted from behind them, Kyo. She turned to see Lai Tai Lam rushing towards them, his face etched with urgency. When Kyo's mind raced, why is he here now? A sly smile spread across her face. This is perfect. This is my chance. With lightning speed, her demeanor shifted 180 degrees. She pushed Fo Tu-han away, feigning panic. Get away from me, she cried. Stop bothering me. Fo Tu-han froze, stunned by the sudden change. Lam Wen Kyo, he said, his voice laced with disbelief. Do you know what you're saying? If I hadn't just rescued you, where'd you be right now? Have you even thought about that? Wen Kyo cut him off. So what? She retorted. Are you trying to guilt trip me? As Lai Tai Lam reached them, Wen Kyo threw herself into his arms, sobbing dramatically. Tai Lam, zu finally kim. Watching this unfold, Lai Tai Lam thought to himself, could it be, does she still have feelings for me? At this moment, a message from Lam Wen Kyo, arrived. It worked. Grandma dragged her to apologize to Mr. Mu. They said they want to hold the wedding ceremony again. The plan to seize the Lam family's assets can proceed smoothly now. Dividing the Lam family assets with Lam Kyo, it's much better to flatter Lam Wen Kyo and seize the entire fortunes of both the Lam and Mu families, isn't it? Lost in thought, he embraced Lam Wen Kyo and offered comforting words. Kyo, I'm sorry I'm late. Please forgive me, won't you? Lam Wen Kyo, not that Bolu Sing. Fo Tu-han, after observing the scene, finally spoke. All right. From beginning to end, I've just been a fool, led around in circles like a top. Right? Seeing Lam Wen Kyo's silence, he angrily pointed at her and roared, remember what you two did to me today. With that, Fo Tu-han turned and stormed off. Watching him go, Lam Wen Kyo thought, I'll just have to find a chance to explain everything to him later. Toy Lam feigned concern, asking, Kyo, what's going on with you? And Fo Tu-han? Lam Wen Kyo replied, Toy Lam, that day, when I ran away from the wedding, Mr. Mu's bodyguards caught me. To escape, in that desperate situation, I used young Master Fo's name. But I didn't expect. Toy Lam, after hearing her explanation, seemed to understand. He sighed and said, that day, seeing him spend money like water for you, I thought you too. Lam Wen Kyo interrupted him. Don't talk nonsense. He did all that willingly. Aye. She hesitated, then continued. In my heart, there's only you. Toy Lam embraced her tightly and murmured, Kyo, I won't let you down. I'll formally ask for your hand in marriage soon. I won't let you go again. Lam Wen Kyo nodded in agreement. Toy Lam, filled with smug satisfaction, thought, this foolish woman just be my puppet. But he didn't realize that Lam Nguyen Kyo was already a step ahead in her own calculations. This despicable, good-for-nothing man. This time, I'll make sure he's utterly ruined. The scene shifted to Pho Tu Han. After being thoroughly bewildered by Lam Nguyen Kyo, he was furious. He went to a bar to drown his sorrows. She's a real con artist, he declared, downing a full glass. Because of her, Elsewhere, the fat man was still tied to a chair. A man stood menacingly over him. I advise you to sign quickly. Otherwise, when he arrives, you'll lose more than just a leg. The fat man remained calm, his eyes closed, seemingly unconcerned. You're just a spoiled rich kid. Stop trying to scare me. I'm not afraid. His face was a mask of stubborn defiance. The more young Master Pho cares about that girl, the more interested I become. That figure, those curves, delicious, delicious, buttery smooth. He'd barely finished speaking when a fierce blow landed on him. Die, you disgusting pig. Pho Tu Han's wolf-like claws raked across the fat man's body. The fat man was terrified. The man beside Pho Tu Han urged him, sign it, or the next scratch will be across your throat. The fat man stammered, Why, you're a W werewolf. Pho Tu Han's face was a mask of smug satisfaction, a contented smile playing on his lips. Thoroughly inebriated, he slumped back, breathing heavily, still simmering with annoyance. She'd signed a contract, hadn't she? Why this sudden change of heart? A man beside him, his arm draped familiarly over Pho Tu Han's shoulders, offered a consoling word. Come on now, young master, he soothed. What kind of woman are you looking for that I can't find for you here? He gestured to the surrounding hostesses. Ladies, come and attend to young Master Pho. A night of pleasure will chase away 1,000 sorrows. Serve him well, and he'll reward you handsomely. Two women immediately flocked to his side, one on each arm, their hands beginning their ministrations. Pho Tu Han Shao Fun Zhang. It was Lam Nguyen Kyo. He answered curtly, Why are you calling me? Gao Fai Li Dai Lum. Lam Nguyen Kyo's voice held a hint of amusement. Are you jealous? Pho Tu Han Scott. Jealous? Of what? Do you think I'm short of female companionship? He turned to the women beside him. Say something for Miss Lam's benefit. The women chimed in obligingly, their voices sweet and enticing. Young Master Pho, have some grapes. Lam Nguyen Kyo Sha Don Zi Mai Un Jiang. Where are you now? She asked. Send me the address. I need to talk to you about something important. Inwardly, she thought, is this Pho Tu Han not afraid of catching something? Lam Nguyen Kyo Hong O Ba Bo Li, leaving Pho Tu Han Fu Ming. She dared to hang up on me, he roared. The man beside him, swirling a glass of liquor, chuckled. Is our young master falling in love? Pho Tu Han closed his eyes and shook his head. Nonsense. What kind of woman couldn't I have? Love? Preposterous. The man continued to tease him. Don't pretend. Everyone else thinks you're a playboy, draped in silks and surrounded by women. Only I know that no woman has ever truly gotten close to you. Finally, Lam Nguyen Kyo arrived. She opened the door to find 3 women fawning over Pho Tu Han, plying him with drinks. Her face hardened. Pho Tu Han, she snapped. Get rid of them. Pho Tu Han, startled, waved the women away. Go on, get out of here. Lam Nguyen Kyo strode over and sat beside him. Pho Tu Han, she said, her voice low, you need to control yourself. Aren't you afraid of getting sick? He leaned in close, his breath hot against her ear. Are you jealous? Why don't you try me and see if I'm busy? Lam Nguyen Kyo recoiled, pushing him away. Disgusting. I came here to discuss something serious with you. Pho Tu Han raised an eyebrow. What could you possibly need to discuss with me? I'm just a shield for you to break off your engagement. Lai Tai Lam is your true love, isn't he? Lam Nguyen Kyo's fingers tightened around her purse. That was just a desperate act. I don't want to pretend to be engaged to Lai Tai Lam, only to humiliate him at the wedding. She turned to the man who had been teasing Pho Tu Han earlier. Mr. Tan, you have a reputation for cunning. I need your help with this plan. Mr. Dun Smai. I'm happy to help. If Tu Han is willing to help you, I certainly will. Pho Tu Han Lao Get. Miss Lam, after the way you treated me, what makes you think I'd want to help you? Lam Nguyen Kyo suddenly stood and walked towards Pho Tu Han, leaning in a whisper, so what about this, young Master Pho? Don't forget we've already signed a contract. Mr. Tan, witnessing their intimate exchange, feigned covering his eyes and teased. This isn't something I should be seeing. Children shouldn't watch this. Pho Tu-han, his handsome face contorted, stammered, "Why you sit down first? I agree with you, all right?" Lam Wen-kyo then sat back down. She settled beside Pho Tu-han and continued, "So that's my plan." At that moment, Mr. Muck burst through the door, fuming. That Pho Tu-han, just because his family has a bit of stinking money, he dares to humiliate me in public? He even threatened me. Damn it. He slumped into a chair, panting with rage. One of his men approached and reported, "Sir, you shouldn't lower yourself to his level." Mr. Muck pondered for a moment, then opened his eyes, a glint in them. "I heard the werewolf hunters have been active again recently." The man nodded in agreement. "Yes, it seems there's been another reported incident of werewolves attacking humans." Hearing this, Mr. Muck let out a delighted laugh. Then I'm the perfect victim, aren't I? Go, leak some information to the werewolf hunters. Tell them I was kidnapped by the Pho family a while back, and the wounds I sustained were inflicted by a werewolf. Understood? Yes, sir, the man replied. The scene shifted back to Lam Wen-kyo, who was downing a large glass of liquor. After finishing her drink, she turned to Pho Tu-han and said, "So what's the big deal? I've witnessed the Tan family's methods firsthand. Recording a video to catch someone cheating is nothing, right? It's as easy as flipping a hand." Mr. Tan stiffened at her words, sitting in silence for a moment before managing to speak. No problem at all." He closed his eyes and added, "Just don't ever provoke this lady again. I don't want to be holding your compromising video next time." Pho Tu-han, practically fuming at this, yelled, "Young Master Tan, I've always been a man of integrity. What's there to be afraid of?" Lam Wen-kyo nearly fainted at his outburst. She sighed, closing her eyes. "Well, then, Mr. Tan, I'll have to trouble you further. Lai Tai Lam will be coming to propose tomorrow. During the wedding ceremony, please help me expose his true nature." With that, Lam Wen-kyo stood and turned to Pho Tu-han. "Well, if there's nothing else, I'll be going. I'll be relying on you too." Pho Tu-han seemed startled, but didn't dare say anything. The scene changed to a gathering of the Lai and Lam families. Everyone sat around the table, seemingly enjoying a cordial atmosphere. The parents of our two families should have met long ago. If it weren't for the unforeseen circumstances, we might already be one big family, perhaps even with grandchildren by now. Lam Wen-kyo nestau against Li Tai Lam, acting Goyen ap Fetino. As long as I have Tai Lam, a little delay doesn't matter. Lai Tai Lam embraced her, and the two nuzzled affectionately. Lam Kyo watched the scene, seething with jealousy, her face flushed. That was supposed to be me, she thought, her anger rising. Lam Wen-kyo, noticing Lam Kyo shot her ass mugugalang. Then, Lam Wen-kyo turned and quickly scooped some food on a Lai Tai Lam's plate. "Tai Lam, this is your favorite braised ribs." Unable to bear the scene any longer, Lam Kyo stood up, flung her chopsticks down, and stormed off, shouting, "I'm going to the restroom." Her father, furious, barked, Kyo, on your sister's engagement day. How can you behave like this? Putting on such a face. What will people think?" Her mother tried to soothe the situation. "Oh, Kyo is just upset about being separated from her sister. That's all." Suddenly, the wine glass in Lai Tai Lam's hand slipped, startling everyone around them. Lai Tai Lam, feigning fluster, stood up and said, "Excuse me, uncle and aunt, I need to go to the restroom to clean up." Lam Wen-kyo looked up at him and asked, "Do you need any help?" Lai Tai Lam waved his hand dismissively and said, "No need, I'll be right back." Lam Wen-kyo thought to herself, go on, go comfort her. Otherwise, she'll explode in there. Is Li Tai Lam wan ko inside, he suren li godat lam kyu ken. "Wait," he said. He then pushed her against the wall. With one hand in his pocket, he leaned in close. Kyo, don't you trust me? You know I'm only going through the motions with Lam Wen-kyo. I'm not interested in her." Hearing this, Lam Kyo wrapped her arms around his neck and looked directly into his eyes. "So, after you marry her, when will you be able to rightfully claim the Lam family fortune and be with me, openly and honestly?" Still clinging to him, she continued, "Soon. After the wedding, she'll die from an illness. Then, won't you be the rightful heir?" He soothed her. "By then, my fortune, everything I own, will be yours." Blinded by his manipulation, she murmured, "I know you only love me." Li Tai Lam Zip Lit Up Gaos. The two embraced, engaging in inappropriate behavior right outside the restroom. 10 minutes later, they emerged. As soon as they appeared, Lam Wen-kyo teased, "Little sister, what's wrong? Was the heating on full blast in the restroom? Your face is all red." Lam Kyo, still flushed, put a hand to her cheek and feigned shyness. "Oh, really? I just ran into my future brother-in-law by the restroom, and he said the same thing." As Lai Tai Lam sat down, Lam Wen-kyo took his hand and asked, "Tai Lam, my father just mentioned a very profitable investment opportunity. He wants our families to invest together. Do you know anything about it?" Hearing this, Lai Tai Lam glanced at her father. He then turned back to Lam Wen-kyo with a bright smile. "Actually, the person in charge of that project is a good friend of mine, the same age. I have inside information. It's a sure thing, no risk. Of course, I want to work with your father on such a good opportunity." Lam Wen-kyo fato be met. Ha ha ha. What fine son-in-law. Lam Wen-kyo, smiling radiantly, said, "So, how much is the Lai family planning to invest in this project?" "Our Lam family will match your investment." Li Tai Lam said go. He stared at her in astonishment, then stammered, "Our family's funds are tied up at the moment. That's why I recommended this opportunity to your father." Lam Wen-kyo replied, "So, you mean the Lai family isn't contributing anything? And the Lam family is putting up all the capital? Then who benefits from this project?" Everyone at the banquet table was beaming. "We're practically family now, so why talk about two families?" Someone chuckled. Exactly. And won't the profits from this venture go to our newlyweds?" Lam Wen-kyo turned, a smile playing on her lips. "Uncle, how about this? Here's the loan agreement. The Lam family agrees to lend the Lai family 3 trillion VND for investment in this project. The interest rate will be based on the bank's rate, and any profit from the project will be shared between our two families." Lai Tai Lam, hearing Lam Wen-kyo's words, turned to her with a look of surprise. Kyo, he asked, "What do you mean by that? The Lai family isn't so destitute that we can't come up with 3 trillion VND. Lam Wen-kyo responded calmly, "If we use the Lam family's money and the investment fails, it's on my family. If it succeeds, we both share the profits." Speaking frankly, this arrangement protects the Lai family's reputation. Otherwise, people might say the Lai family is just after the Lam family's money. Her father, overhearing the conversation, raised his hand with a hearty laugh. Kyo is always so thoughtful. In my past life, you used this so-called investment fund to swindle my family out of 3 trillion VND. This time, you won't get a single dong. Don't even dream of it. Mom and Dad are watching, aren't they? This little girl has suddenly become quite sharp-tongued. Just wait until I'm married into your family. I'll deal with you slowly. Suddenly, she turned to Lai Tai Lam. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "No, not at all," Lai Tai Lam replied smoothly. "I'm happy you're so considerate of my family." Kyo, just wait until we're married, he thought, a predatory gleam in his eyes. "Once she's gone, all of the Lam family's assets will belong to the Lai family." Mine. The banquet at the Lam family home drew to a close. Lam Wen-kyo sat with her father. "Dad," she began, "are you upset with me for what I said to Mr. Lai?" Her father responded immediately. "You said you were thinking of the Lam family, but you were also worried that without a contract, the Lai family might back out and pretend they don't know us, weren't you?" Her father turned to her, a questioning look in his eyes. "Do you think all my years in business have been for nothing?" Lam Wen-kyo quickly replied, "Of course not, Dad. Nothing gets past you." Her father patted her head affectionately. "But you put the Lam family's interests first. That's very good. The Lai family, how could they possibly be on equal footing with us? Remember, even after you marry into their family, you are a Lam." Lam Wen-kyo nodded obediently. "Yes, father, I understand." Then, with a bright smile, she added, "Dad, you're absolutely right. We must stand united to make the Lam family business even more successful." Her father beamed at her words. "You've really matured, Kyo. Before, you were so misguided, always causing trouble for your mother." He paused, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "How did you suddenly become so wise?" Lam Wen-kyo replied softly, "I've always known mother was good to me. I couldn't let go of the pain of losing my birth mother." Then, as if struck by a sudden thought, she said, "Dad, mother's birthday is coming up soon. Let's throw her a lavish party. I want everyone to know she's the true mistress of the Lam family." Mr. Tan heard Lam Wen-kyo's words and, immensely pleased, let out a hearty laugh. Kyo your father has long awaited the day this family would find harmony. Today, it has finally arrived. Lam Winkyo extended her hand. Why don't I take charge? Firstly, to apologize to Mother, and secondly, I also want to host all the prominent families to give Mother the greatest glory and respect. Mr. Tan nodded in agreement. Good, very good, very good. Meanwhile, at Fo Tu-han's house, young Master Tan was also present. After reviewing something, Fo Tu-han spoke up. TSK, this little brat is truly scum. Young Master Tan took a bite of an apple. What's the big deal? If things proceed according to plan, Lam Winkyo's scheme will be even more explosive later. I absolutely must not provoke a woman, especially not someone like Lam Winkyo. Oh, I'm so scared, so scared. A week passed, and the day of the birthday banquet arrived. Everything had been meticulously prepared. Whispers and murmurs filled the air. Madame Lum, gong datin. I hear this stepmother is quite difficult to please. You've truly reached the end of hardship and the beginning of happiness. Another voice chimed in. Indeed, I've never seen such an extravagant birthday banquet thrown for a stepmother. It truly brings you great honor, Madame Lam. Lam Winkyo approached and took Madame Lam's hand. In the past, I was the one who didn't understand. Mother has always been very good to me. Lai Tai Lam, standing beside her, added, Happy birthday, Annie. May your happiness be as vast as the eastern sea and your life as long as the southern mountains. Madame Lam beamed with joy. Kyo and Tai Lam are so thoughtful. Lam Kyo, standing behind them, could no longer contain herself. Mother, I'm your real daughter. Madame Lam turned to her. Kyo, please, let's talk. Ni babi lam win kiu zik up and dao chet li tai lam she fai. Look at you. You have something on your mouth. In response to her gesture, Lai Tai Lam leaned closer, as if to kiss her. He teased, Is it clean now? Lam win kiu belu set. You're so annoying. There are so many people here, and you're acting like this. Lam Kyo, watching from behind, trembled with rage. Just you wait and see how long you can remain smug. Fo Tu-han observed the scene from afar. Is she really willing to do anything? He moved to a spot outside the banquet hall, lost in thought about what he had just witnessed. Lam Winkyo emerged from the banquet hall, letting out a sigh. Fo Tu-han jumped, startled, and dropped his glass, the wine splashing on the floor. He suddenly rushed forward, grabbing Lam Winkyo's hand and pressing her against the wall. Your acting isn't bad. I almost believed you were sincere with Lai Tai Lam. Lam Winkyu's my bodai li. Is young Master Fo jealous? Fo Tu-han's face flushed, and he looked away, flustered. Jealous? Why would I be? Lam Winkyo reached out and touched his face playfully. Don't worry, I know my limits. Tonight, we'll see young Master Fo show off his skills. She then abruptly pushed him away. She turned and walked back into the banquet hall, leaving Fo Tu-han stunned. He was so embarrassed he felt like his inner wolf was about to burst out. Why does this woman always have to be so touchy-feely, regardless of the situation? Back inside the banquet hall, Madame Lam addressed the guests. Thank you all for your well wishes tonight. It's getting late, so I won't delay your departure. Lam Winkyo suddenly stood and interjected. Oh, how about we move on to a second location? Turning to young Master Tan, Lam Winkyo said, I want to go to a bar. I've never been to one before, and I want to experience it. Lai Tai Lam, taking her hand with a worried expression, said, Kyo, what's so good about a place like that? Let's not go. Lam Winkyo looped her arm around Lai Tai Lam's, playfully leaning against him. But I want to go, she insisted. I want to experience it once before we get married. Will you go with me? Li Tai Lam, Ziving in, not that. All right. At that moment, Lam Kyo also jumped up. I want to go too. Hearing her sister's request, Lam Winkyo turned back to Lai Tai Lam. Fine, the more the merrier. Before they left, she turned to Tran. Tran, come with us. The young woman readily agreed. All right, and so, the group headed off to the bar. The young men settled down, knocking back drinks. Another one for Mr. Lai. Let's raise a glass. Young Master Tan chimed in. And me as well. I've heard so much about Mr. Lai, and today, I finally have the chance to get to know you. Min Wei Hin, Lam Win Kiu Chat Dat Wei Chen. Let's have a drink together, Tran. Cheers. With that, she drained her glass, leaving Tran looking slightly alarmed. You should slow down, she cautioned. You can't drink that much. Lam Wen Kyo chuckled, waving her hand dismissively. Tonight, I not only want to drink a lot, but I also want to drink with you. After several rounds of drinks, Lam Wen Kyo was visibly unsteady on her feet. She stumbled into the restroom to be sick, prompting a worried Tran Tran to follow. Kyo, I told you not to drink so much. Lam Wen Kyo, leaning heavily on the counter, turned to Tran Tran. I have a task for you. La to, make sulam kiu kiu dek li tai lam home. Tran Tran looked surprised. What? Lam Wen Kiu pei ahen on jun jun shai shao de. Don't ask. Just go. Only you can do this. Following Lam Wen Kyo's instructions, Tran Tran left the restroom. Lam Wen Kyo sighed, barely able to stand. Stepping out of the restroom, she was met by Fo Tu Han. Startled, she asked, What are you doing here? Did you get him drunk? Fo Tu Han suddenly stepped forward, pinning her against the wall. Don't worry about him. Tan Man Thuan is taking care of that. You should be more concerned about yourself. His voice softened with concern as he reached out to touch her face. Why are you like this? You can't hold your liquor, yet you drank so much. Why are you so reckless? Lam Wen Kyo sighed, the word reckless echoing in her mind. A flashback surged through her memory. Lai Tai Lam and Lam Kyo together. Lai Tai Lam's angry face loomed before her, his hands gripping her throat. Go get the money from Old Man Muck. As his wife, you shouldn't be short on cash. A terrified Lam Wen Kyo stammered, I really don't have it. He jumped to his feet, roaring, I don't care how you do it, but you'll get 2 million from him. Otherwise, these photos and videos will be everywhere. Please don't. Back in the present, Lam Wen Kyo closed her eyes, sighed, and said, If I hadn't taken that risk, I would have been the one to die. Including kissing him, too. Lam Wen Kyo, startled by Fo Tu Han's words, replied, Huh? What did you say? Fo Tu Han retorted, I said, were his lips soft? Lam Wen Kyo pei ahen on Fo Tu Han shao de. Are you sick? What are you talking about? We need to go back to our rooms. She turned to leave, but Fo Tu Han suddenly reached out, blocking her path. She flinched, alarmed by his action. Suddenly, Fo Tu Han luet forward, kissing Lam Wen Kyo passionné. She froze, utterly stunned by his actions. After a moment of indulging in the kiss, he pulled away and asked, Were they as soft as mine? Lam Wen Kyo raised a hand to cover her mouth, her eyes wide with shock, unable to comprehend his behavior. Frozen for what felt like an eternity, she stood there until Fo Tu Han finally spoke. Well, what do you think? Lam Wen Kyo suddenly collapsed against Fo Tu Han's chest. He was taken aback. It dawned on him that Lam Wen Kyo was completely drunk. Oh dear, you can't hold your liquor, and yet you drank so much. Fo Tu Han scooped her up into his arms. I'll take you home, okay? You're not saying anything, so I'll take that as a yes. He carried her slowly towards the door. He carried her to his own villa. Gently placing her on the bed, he turned to leave, but Lam Wen Kyo suddenly wrapped her arms around his neck. Fo Tu Han was startled. What are you doing? I'm not some virtuous gentleman, you know. Lam Wen Kyo's eyes locked with his. Then they shared a deep, passionate kiss. What was bound to happen happened. Lost in the heat of the moment, Fo Tu Han passionately kissed Lam Wen Kyo on the bed. That night, they lost themselves in a whirlwind of passion. The next morning, Fo Tu Han woke up first, propped up on one elbow, watching as Lam Wen Kyo began to stir. After a moment of stunned silence, Lam Wen Kyo shrieked, Fo Tu Han, what have you done to me? He leaned over and gently lifted her chin. Did you expect me to do something to you? Lam Wen Kyo stammered. Why you? You're saying such nonsense. Fo Tu Han replied, but you seem to be expecting me to do something to you. Lam Wen Kyo simply spat out, Get out. Fo Tu Han abruptly stood up. He pointed to a bag. I'm just teasing you. You were completely out of it last night. Your clothes are there. Get dressed. I need to talk to you. With that, Fo Tu Han stepped outside to wait. After changing, Lam Wen Kyo emerged. Hey, slow down. What are you looking at? Fo Tu Han handed her his phone. Here's the video you wanted. But Lai Tai Lam doesn't seem to be performing very well. Lam Wen Kyo asked, puzzled. He's not performing well? He's not performing well? Huh? Taking the phone, Lam Wen Kyo watched the video. Fo Tu Han added, I certainly performed better than Lai Tai Lam. Much better. After watching the video, Lam Wen Kyo turned to leave, not forgetting to say, thanks, Fo Tu Han. Fo Tu Han's face flushed crimson, his ears burning. Amon la de, dun mun tun a bo check Fo Tu Han. Hey. Lam Wen Keo and Lai Tai Lam's wedding photos are trending. The invitation lay on the table, the time and place clearly marked. Madame Lam's birthday banquet at the Fu Zihan residence. What's the meaning of this? Madame Lam demanded. My daughter-in-law hasn't even officially joined the family, and someone's already trying to steal her thunder? The invitation has already been delivered. Fu Zihan sobbed, tears streaming down his face. Mother, please don't worry. I'm still your daughter-in-law. Who would dare to interfere? Just wait, you'll see. And so, the young man drowned his sorrows in alcohol. His friends, seated beside him, tried to console him. Mr. Fu, Miss Lam is your soon-to-be wife. Why is she wearing Li Tai Lam's wedding ring already? Fu Zihan, fuming, snapped, Shut up. Don't you dare say another word. Drunk and reeling, Fu Zihan pulled out his phone and called Lam Wen Keo. Hello, Lam Wen Keo. You signed a marriage contract with me. Do you still intend to honor it? Lam Wen Keo, recognizing the slurred voice of the drunken man, replied, Is this all you called me for at this late hour? Fu Zihan's face was flushed crimson. But you and Li Tai Lam have already taken wedding photos. You're wearing his engagement ring. You've even sent out invitations. I thought you'd forgotten our agreement. Lam Wen Keo chuckled at his words. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. Just come to the wedding tomorrow, and I promise you a surprise. And so, the next day arrived, the day of Li Tai Lam and Lam Wen Keo's wedding. Madame Lam, holding the hands of her two daughters, spoke with concern. My dear Keo, I entrust you to his care. Li Tai Lam Zipli, Motor, Don Worthy. I'll treat Keo well for the rest of our lives. Then, turning to Lam Wen Keo, he said, And you, my love, do you believe I'll truly cherish you forever? He nodded immediately. Of course. Seated among the guests was Fu Zihan, waiting. Finally, the main event was about to begin. A steamy, X-rated video began to play on a large 200-inch screen for all the guests to see. Moans echoed through the hall. Oh, darling, gentler. Oh, yes. A hurried male voice gasped. Baby, you're so seductive. I love it. Lam Wen Keo and Li Tai Lam spun around in shock, facing the screen. The guests erupted in chaos. The groom crossed the line with the bride's sister. This is unbelievable. What a show. Look at that. This despicable man, marrying the older sister and then taking advantage of the younger one. He has no conscience. Li Tai Lam, utterly stunned, rushed to unplug the screen. Panicked, he yelled, It's not what it looks like. It's a misunderstanding. That's not me in the video. It's been edited. Meanwhile, the explicit video was already spreading online. Oh, darling, gentler. Oh, baby, you're so seductive. I love it. Lam Keo, horrified, tried to snatch phones from the guests. Stop watching. Give me your phones. Give them to me. A man standing nearby exclaimed, Are you crazy? What are you doing grabbing my phone? Give it back. On stage, Li Tai Lam, losing his composure, pointed at the videographer and roared, Stop the video. Confiscate everyone's phones. Now. He lunged forward, grabbing Lam Keo's hand. Li Tai Lam slapet Lam Wen Keo hat a gut tefai. It's all your fault. Everything is because of you. You drugged me and then forced me to sleep with you. Lam Wen Keo, gluting has thinking check dito angry. Li Tai Lam, what nonsense are this thing? What did you say in bed that night? You said you only loved me, that you were just playing along with my sister, that you were only after her money. Infuriated, Li Tai Lam slapped her again. Shut up, you vile, scheming woman. You have no shame. If I hadn't considered you Keo's sister, how could I have? Lam Wen Keo dun away, hutbergon. I can't believe you're such a despicable person. Li Tai Lam, statan, dun to her. Keo, listen to me. Let me explain. Lam Wen Keo walked toward her father. Dad, I'm willing to give Li Tai Lam to my sister. As long as she's happy, it's fine. Her parents rushed to embrace Lam Keo, who looked up, weeping. Keo, Mr. Lam pleaded, Please forgive Keo. She must have been corrupted by Li Tai Lam. My obedient Keo would never do such depraved things otherwise. Mr. Lam roared, Enough. Haven't we been humiliated enough? This is mortifying, utterly mortifying. He stormed onto the stage, grabbed the microphone, and announced, Everyone, the Lam family apologizes for the inadequate hospitality today. We will personally visit each of you to apologize another day. Please, you are dismissed. Suddenly, Lam Wen Keo rushed forward, shouting, Wait. She seized the microphone. Today is Lam Wen Keo's wedding. It's not right to invite everyone and then send them away so abruptly. If the groom is unsuitable, We can simply change him. Why ruin the entire wedding for one person? The crowd gasped. Even Lam, when Kyo's family was stunned, frozen in place. Lai Lam himself couldn't believe this turn of events. Mr. Lam grabbed Lam, Wen Kyo's arm. What are you doing? The Lam family's reputation is already in tatters. What more do you want? Lam Wen Kyo closed her eyes. Now you care about losing face? Listen to me, and perhaps the Lam family's reputation can still be salvaged. Confused, Mr. Lam asked, what do you mean? Lam Nguyen Kiu Luk Tawat Fo Tu Hun. I present to you the groom, Fo Tu Han. She rushed down and extended her hand towards him. Fo Tu Han was taken aback by this sudden development. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Seeing his lack of reaction, when Kyo called out Fo Tu Han, he glanced at her, then, without a word, stood up and walked out of the wedding. The crowd erupted in hushed whispers. Oh my, young Master Fo has run away. Looks like Miss Lam has been wishful thinking all along. Isn't this basically forcing him to marry her on the spot? She's certainly ambitious. Her face darkened, her heart aching. So, Fo Tu Han, even you don't want me anymore? Lai Lam, ever shameless, approached her, trying to sweet-talk her. Kyo, listen to me, I've always loved you. That thing with Lam Kyo was just a momentary lapse in judgment. I'll never do anything like that again. Please forgive me. Faced with her father's flimsy justifications, she let out a bitter laugh. Images from her past life flooded her mind. She remembered how she had pleaded with him, but he'd left her to fend for herself. Lai Lam, she'd begged, please think of something. I really don't want to marry that fat old moo. He'd responded with a cold laugh. Beg me? Then kneel. His demand had struck her like a thunderclap, but she'd had no other choice but to obey. Seeing her compliance, he continued his taunts. Kyo, it's not that I don't want to help you, but your feet are attached to your own legs. If you don't want to marry him, who can force you? Let's be honest, aren't you just greedy for the Mu family's wealth and status? And now you're pretending to be so innocent. He stepped forward, wiping away her tears, and played his mind games. Kyo, I still love you very much. This will never change. Even if you marry old Mu, I will still love you. I'm willing to be your lover. What do you think of this offer? Snapping back to the present from that unpleasant memory, her face hardened. She coldly echoed the words he had once spoken to her. If you want to beg me, then kneel. Lai Lam was taken aback, but at this point, he had no choice but to swallow his pride and kneel. Looking at the man she had once loved so deeply, now kneeling at her feet, a strange mixture of bitterness and amusement washed over her. Lai Lam, I admit I loved you very much before, but I don't love you anymore. Loving you is too tiring, too humiliating, and it robbed me of my freedom. That kind of love is more suitable for my sister, Lam Kyo. Madam Lam, supported by her second wife, stormed over, furious. Are you making a mockery of marriage? Your marriage to Tai Lam was a childhood engagement arranged by your grandfather. How can you just refuse? What about the Lam family's reputation? Lam Wen Kyo felt utterly abandoned, with no one on her side. Heartbroken, she asked, so, him having an affair with Kyo upholds the Lam family's reputation? Ignoring her granddaughter's distress, Madam Lam remained stubbornly entrenched in her views, even shifting the blame onto Lam Wen Kyo. He just made a mistake, like many men in this world. Is it so unforgivable? You must forgive him, support him through difficult times. That way, others won't be able to take advantage of the situation. Ultimately, the problem lies with you. The injustices she had endured overwhelmed her, and tears streamed down her face. She choked back a sob. So, my happiness, my well-being, they don't matter? Madam Lam replied without hesitation. In your state, what man would want to marry you? Tai Lam wanting to marry you is already a great blessing. Her words were like a bucket of ice water poured over Lam Wen Kyo. She lamented inwardly. Why was she the victim? Yet everyone blamed her. They even acted as if she were the instigator of these mistakes. In that moment, she felt utterly alone, helpless, her spirit almost consumed by darkness. But just as despair threatened to engulf her, a door of light opened, as if to salvage her future. Fo Tu Han's warm voice resonated throughout the wedding hall. Who says no one will marry Lam Wen Kyo? Hearing that familiar voice, she turned, tears welling up. He approached her, a warm smile gracing his lips. Sorry, I left suddenly. I wanted to prepare a few things to surprise you. Fo Tu Han knelt on one knee before her, a ring box in his hand. He looked at her with sincerity. Lam Wen Kyo, will you marry me? Her face radiated pure happiness. It took a moment before she breathed 3 words. I am willing. With her consent given, he gently slid the engagement ring onto her finger. Madame Lamb, witnessing such brazenness, frowned. Young master of the Faux family, you have little regard for my Lamb family, haven't you? Fo Tuhan seemed unfazed by the accusation. With utter confidence, he countered, it was my fault for not formally visiting and asking for her hand, but my mother has already approached the Lamb family. How can you say we disregard you? Furthermore, regarding family status, the Faux family is one of the most prominent in Van Ton, certainly a match for the Lamb family. And as for looks, he added with a touch of arrogance, I'm certainly no less than Lai Tai Lam. He paused, his gaze softening as he looked at Lam Wen Kyo. As for pampering my wife, he continued, I'm willing to spend 30 million on a necklace for Kyo Kyo if that's what she desires. His eyes flicked towards the humiliated Lai Tai Lam, a smirk playing on his lips. And what about young Master Lai? He can only stand by and watch me give Kyo Kyo her necklace. Fo Tuhan stepped towards her, taking her hands in his. His voice, filled with sincerity, resonated with a promise that seemed to echo through eternity. Most importantly, he declared, I will love only Kyo Kyo for all my life. No one else. The crowd, silenced by his unwavering declaration, could only watch as the two exchanged a look of profound connection. Just then, having made her preparations, Madame Fo made a dramatic entrance. Madame Lam, she announced, I do not agree to this sudden proposal between Fo Tuhan and Kyo Kyo. This wedding is far too hasty. I don't want Kyo Kyo to be shortchanged, so I've brought the betrothal gifts. She gestured to 2 documents detailing the lavish offerings prepared for Lam Wen Kyo and began to read aloud. The Fo family sincerely wishes to marry the eldest daughter of the Lam family. The betrothal gifts for Lam Wen Kyo are as follows. A riverside villa in District 1, a limited edition Audi, the Heart of the Ocean gemstone jewelry set worth 300 million NDT. In addition, 5% of the Fo Corporation's original shares will be given to Lam Wen Kyo as premarital assets. All paperwork has been notarized. She then presented the documents to her future daughter-in-law. The guests, mouths agape, gasped at the extravagant betrothal gifts. Heavens, the Fo family is playing for keeps. Original shares? And as premarital assets, no less. Lam Wen Kyo has struck gold, another exclaimed. The Fo family's sincerity is undeniable. Madame Fo, with feigned humility, turned to the Lam family. Mr. Lam, Madame Lam, she inquired, is the Fo family's betrothal gift satisfactory? Snapping out of his stunned silence, Mr. Lam rushed forward, his face beaming as he shook Madame Fo's hand. Of course. Such generous gifts. What is my daughter to do? Madame Fo smiled. So, Mr. Lam, you agree? Mr. Lam, practically giddy at the prospect of such a lucrative union, grinned. It mainly depends on the young people's wishes. If Kyo Kyo agrees, how could I possibly object? The Fo family is far more influential than the Lai family. If my family can secure this connection, the Lam family's reputation will soar. Knowing the matter was settled, Fo Tuhan gently embraced Lam Wen Kyo. I'm sorry you had to endure this today, he murmured. When we return, I'll prepare everything properly. I promise you a magnificent wedding. Is that all right? She nodded, her eyes shining with happiness. Yes, she whispered. Thank you. The second wife, a true example of the older the ginger, the spicier it gets, clearly didn't want her daughter to lose out. With a remarkably casual air, she beamed, wonderful. This is truly a joyous occasion. Kyo Kyo will marry into the Fo family, and her sister, Wen Kyo, will marry into the Lai family. This way, both daughters can have their weddings together. Lai Tai Lam started to object, but Madame Lam cut him off, whispering a sharp warning. Don't you dare disagree. If Wen Kyo marries into the Fo family, you won't have a single day of peace. Grandmother Lam, delighted with this arrangement, chimed in. Kyo marrying Tai Lam is excellent. Not like that ungrateful Lam Wen Kyo. She took Lai Tai Lam and Kyo's hands, placing them together. Consider this a fulfillment of the wishes of both families. Li Tai Lam sa fight daken wit thesenten. He glared at the happy couple. Lam Wen Kyo, Fo Tuhan, Iwan de let du obvisi li. I will repay this humiliation 1,000-fold. Only Kyo, the Tigrine, was genuinely pleased, stifling a giggle. Finally, I'm marrying Lai Tai Lam, just as I wished. The man my sister loved so deeply is finally mine. The banquet ended quickly, and the guests departed without lingering. Seeing her standing alone, gazing into the distance, He approached and thoughtfully draped his jacket over the shoulders of his future wife. It's late, and you're not wearing a coat. Aren't you cold? Looking at the man before her, she felt a sense of protection. Fatuhan Tangzu, he smiled gently. What are you thanking me for? For not abandoning me. Otherwise, I would have fallen into the abyss again. Her words puzzled him, and he paused, confused by her mention of falling into the abyss again. But Fatuhan didn't dwell on it. He tapped her elegant nose playfully. We signed a contract, and I, Fatuhan, am not one to break contracts. She reverted to her mischievous self, teasing, You pulled out all the stops today, didn't you? Don't worry, I won't collect on the original shares. He pulled her close, his voice laced with meaning. If you don't collect, how will you explain it to your mother? She assumed his words and earlier actions were all part of an act to cooperate with her charade. Pushing him away, she laughed, oblivious. Fatuhan, we're out here now. No need to keep acting. You played your part well today. She didn't notice the sudden shadow that crossed his face at her words. He looked into her eyes, his expression serious. What if I told you this wasn't an act? Wen Kyo stopped laughing, her own expression turning serious. What do you mean? He didn't answer directly, only hinting, check the news tomorrow, and you'll find out. Without waiting for her response, he took her hand and led her away. Come on, let me take you home. Lam Wen Kyo, still puzzled, let him lead her away. The next morning, at the Lam family villa, Wen Kyo was fast asleep when her phone rang. It was her best friend. As soon as she answered, her friend's excited voice filled her ear. Gyu, check the news. Your Fatuhan just publicly declared his claim on you. Intrigued, she sat up and went online to check the news. Social media was buzzing with Fatuhan's interview. He looked handsome and serious as he answered the reporter's questions. I've admired Miss Lam, Wen Kyo, for a long time. I'm also very happy that she accepted my proposal. I, Fatuhan, will do my best to give her the grandest wedding in the country. I hope everyone will come and witness our union. After reading the news, Wen Kyo propped her chin in her hand, wondering if Fatuhan always spoke with such a condescending tone. She mused about how he would speak once their contractual agreement expired. Lost in thought, she was startled by a knock at the door. Miss, a servant's voice announced, Madam Lam has arrived. The master requests your presence downstairs. Wen Kyo quickly replied, All right, I understand. I'll be right down. A flicker of suspicion crossed her mind. What would be going on today? She wondered. When she descended the stairs, everyone was already assembled. Lam Kyo, clinging to Madame Lam's arm with a saccharine display of affection, presented a picture of familial bliss that Wen Kyo found utterly ludicrous. What a heartwarming scene, she thought wryly. It's almost as if I'm the extra one in this family. Before she could even take a seat, Madame Lam issued a directive. Wen Kyo, she said, starting tomorrow, your younger sister will begin working at Lam Corporation. Do you have any objections? Wen Kyo, for reasons unknown, readily agreed. Of course not, she replied magnanimously. After the distress my sister suffered yesterday, a change of scenery is certainly in order. It's only fitting that she starts working at the company. Her father, surprised by her acquiescence, approached her and whispered, You've always been against your sister joining the company. Why the sudden change of heart? Are you up to something? Looking at him with an expression of utter sincerity, she convinced him completely. Father, you're overthinking it. I want nothing more than for my sister to be happy. In fact, if she agrees, I'm willing to cover the entire cost of her wedding to Lai Toai Lam. Trazan, Kyo's mother, eyed her suspiciously. Is that so? Such generosity from you. Wen Kyo smiled triumphantly. Well, there's still a lot of gossip going around. If my sister and Lai Toai Lam are together, the rumors about me and Fatuhan will die down naturally. Before leaving, her expression turned icy. Oh, and one more thing, she added, her voice laced with a chilling undertone. I advise you to set a wedding date with Lai Toai Lam soon. After all, it was the Lai family who lost face yesterday. The sooner the better, lest they decide to retaliate. A cold smile played on her lips as she continued, Baise, breaking off the engagement. Her words left Trazan and her daughter momentarily speechless. Unsettled by Wen Kyo's words and recognizing the logic in them, Trazan and her daughter made their way to the Lai family residence early the next morning. Lai Toai Lam, spotting them on the security camera, gritted his teeth. What a nuisance, he muttered. Madame Lai, equally displeased, remarked coldly, I haven't even gone to their house yet, and those two good-for-nothings have the audacity to come here themselves. As she prepared to confront them and give them a piece of her mind, Lai Toai Lam stopped her. "Mother, please allow me to handle this," he said. And so, the entire Lai family went out to meet them. Trazan, putting on a friendly facade, greeted them warmly. "Greetings, in-laws," she chirped. She reached out to take Madame Lai's hand with feigned affection. "I've brought Kyo here today to discuss the children's wedding date." Madame Lai, with a look of utter disgust, snatched her hand away. "Oomph, who are you calling in-laws?" she scoffed, her voice dripping with contempt. "Like mother, like daughter. The offspring of a mistress is bound to be just as worthless." Despite the blatant insult, Trazan, ever the shameless one, pressed on. "What do you mean by that?" she asked. Mr. Lai, equally irritated, showed them no mercy, tossing a stack of papers at their feet with a resounding thud. "Here's 5 million. Take this money and tell the media that your daughter, Lam Kyo, seduced my son." Madame Lam, the ambitious social climber, naturally refused this transaction. "What, 5 million? You think we'd sell our daughter for that?" Kyo, tears welling in her eyes, stepped forward, attempting to salvage the situation. "Tai Lam, what do you mean? Explain yourself." Lai Tai Lam's father immediately turned hostile, retracting his hand and disavowing any connection. "A scheming woman like you? I could never allow my son to marry someone like you." Mrs. Lai chimed in, nodding in agreement. "Exactly. Who knows how many men she's slept with already?" Kyo felt unjustly accused and tried to defend herself. "Tai Lam, you know it was my first time with you that night. You saw the blood, didn't you?" Lai Tai Lam laughed derisively. That was just a hymen. Besides, with modern medicine, it's not difficult to get a new one." Madame Lam's face hardened as she turned to interrogate her daughter. Kyo, is what he's saying true?" Kyo, weeping, tried to explain. "No, mother, listen to me." Before she could say more, Lai Tai Lam showed everyone a video. It depicted a scene Kyo desperately wanted to keep hidden, her moans of pleasure echoing throughout the room. Ooh, a little slower, the recording played. She tried to snatch the phone, but Lai Tai Lam was quicker, pocketing it. He shoved Kyo to the ground with disgust. "You still dare to say it was your first time with me? You were so wild. Who would believe that?" Kyo's face paled as she sobbed. "I didn't. You set me up, didn't you?" Madame Lam, her embarrassment turning to rage, slapped her daughter. "How could you do such a thing?" Now that her secret was exposed, Kyo shifted the blame onto Lai Tai Lam. "If you hadn't invited me out that night, none of this would have happened." Madame Lam finally understood. She helped her daughter up and confronted the Lai family. "It seems you planned this all along. You never intended to marry my Kyo, did you?" Lai Tai Lam, with unprecedented seriousness, replied, "I admit I pursued Lam Wen Kyo for her family's wealth, but even without her, I would never have married you. So stop deluding yourself." Defeated, Kyo and her mother could only retreat in humiliation. "Fine then. I hope you don't regret this." As they left, Madame Lam plotted their next move. "At this point, I'll have to quickly put Kyo in charge of Lam Corporation. It's the only way we'll survive." The next morning, a limited edition car stopped in front of Lam Corporation, attracting considerable attention. Countless eyes peered through the windows, curious to see who was inside. When Kyo, seeing him stop, asked in confusion, "What are you doing?" He replied casually, "Just dropping off my fiancée at work." Of course, a goodbye kiss is in order before we part. Noticing the growing crowd, he urged her with a touch of playful dominance. "Darling, hurry up. Can't you see they're watching? Even if it's just for show, we have to play the part. It's a simple concept, darling. Do you understand?" When Kyo felt utterly exasperated with her contract husband, obliging, she lightly kissed his cheek. Having achieved his goal, he grinned triumphantly, flustered and blushing. When Kyo bolted from the car like a gust of wind, her beloved wife's demeanor, still muttering to herself as she entered her office, sent a blush creeping up his neck as he watched her every move. Fotu Han was really pushing his luck. Her phone rang, and she snatched it up irritably. A pleading voice echoed from the other end. Kyo, I know I was wrong. Are you free for dinner tonight? Please, give me a chance to explain." Without much thought, she agreed to his pleas. "All right, but just this once," she emphasized. "Just this once." With that, she hung up. The phone rang again almost immediately. Assuming it was the same man, she snapped, "Lai Tai Lam, I said tonight. Why do you keep calling?" Are you trying to annoy me? On the other end, Fo Tuhan's face darkened. You have a date with Lai Tai Lam tonight? He asked, his voice laced with ice. Realizing it was her husband, when Kyo broke out in a cold sweat. Lai Tai Lam said he needed to talk to me, she stammered. Fo Tuhan, stung by a pang of jealousy, protested. What could he possibly need to talk to you about? And why does it have to be tonight? What's he planning? He could practically smell the jealousy wafting through the phone. Wen Kyo, sensing his displeasure, teased. Are you jealous? Despite the jealousy burning a hole in his pride, Fo Tuhan denied it. Of course not. She chuckled, trying to soothe him. Don't worry, I'll just have dinner with him and come back. Hearing her say this, he couldn't refuse any further. He relented. Call me if anything happens. Okay, I will, she replied cheerfully, a secret smile playing on her lips. Is Fo Tuhan actually falling for me? She mused. Is he trying to turn this fake relationship into something real? That evening, she arrived at the restaurant Lai Tai Lam had specified, right on time. As she sat down, she addressed him coolly. So, what did you want to talk about? Lai Tai Lam presented her with a bouquet of vibrant red roses. Kyo, these are your favorite. I picked each one myself. He then quickly offered her a box of strawberries. And these strawberries, Kyo, I had them specially flown in from overseas. They're quite delicious. Try one. When Kyo frowned at this theatrical display. Lai Tai Lam, what is it you really want? If there's nothing important, I'll be leaving. He adopted a pitiful expression and began to plead. Kyo, I was truly wrong. Lam Kyo, and I were just putting on an act. My heart has always belonged to you. Wen Kyo, having lived through this before in her past life, wasn't buying his sweet words. Remembering his past betrayals only fueled her resentment. Lai Tai Lam, your deep affection is cheaper than dirt. Not wanting to waste any more time on him. She stood up to leave. Before she could take more than a few steps, he grabbed her hand. Kyo, can I ask you something? Is Fo Tuhan good to you? Do you really love him? She yanked her hand away in disgust. What does that have to do with you? She asked coldly. Tears welled up in his eyes as he put on a pathetic display. If you're just momentarily angry with me and willing to ruin your own life because of it, I'll never forgive myself. His demeanor sickened her, filling her with nausea. Lai Tai Lam, when Kyo began, returning to her seat and gathering her thoughts. I should actually thank you. Before, when I was still living with you, I thought love meant giving of oneself without reservation. Because of that, I revolved entirely around you and lost myself. If I hadn't discovered your infidelity, I wouldn't have met Fo Tuhan. I wouldn't have realized that your feelings for me weren't love, but calculation. Seeing his usual sweet-talking wouldn't work, Lai Tai Lam moved to his plan B. He lowered his head and asked, So, Kyo, are you happy now? Without hesitation, she answered, Of course. Lai Tai Lam gestured to a waiter, who promptly approached and filled the 2 champagne flutes on the table. Feigning magnanimity, Lai Tai Lam dropped the pretense of coercion and adopted a gentlemanly facade. This glass, he declared, is to celebrate your wedding, Kyo. She didn't take it, instead refusing with a simple thank you before rising to leave. But her arm was caught once more by Lai Tai Lam. His mask dropped, and he slapped her across the face. Lam Wen Kyo, he snarled, don't be so ungrateful. He brought the champagne flute to her lips and forced it against them. Drink, he commanded. Drink it. She struggled, pushing the glass away, spilling the champagne. Li Tai Lum, are you crazy? His true colors blazed. Plenty of women want me. You should be happy I'm willing to sleep with someone like you. Someone who's already been with another man. He lunged at her. Terrified, she screamed, Lai Tai Lam, let me go. Get away. He struck her again, his rage escalating. Shut up, he hissed. Just wait until Fo Tuhan finds out you slept with me. Let's see if he still wants you then. True fear gripped her now, tears streaming down her face. Lai Tai Lam, you bastard. Let me go. Please. He laughed, a cruel, triumphant sound. Now you're begging? Too late. Suddenly, his collar was yanked from behind, pulling him off balance. A bottle smashed against his head. Fo Tuhan's eyes were glacial. You want to die? He unleashed a furious barrage of blows upon Lai Tai Lam, unaware that in his rage, 2 wolf-like ears had sprouted from his head. Wen Kyo stared, frozen. What? Seeing the escalating violence, she snapped out of her shock and rushed forward. Fo Tuhan, stop hitting him. Terrified by his loss of control, she threw her arms around him, sobbing. Fo Tuhan, it's me, Kyo. Lam Wen Kyo, please stop. At her voice, he stilled, his reason returning, the wolf ears vanishing without a trace. Lai Tai Lam lay unconscious on the floor. Fo Tuhan's friend, disgusted, gave the prone figure a few parting kicks. Fo Tuhan pointed at the unconscious man, his voice thick with fury. "You ever try to harass her again, and I'll kill you." Turning to his friend, he said, "The rest is up to you." His friend nodded. "Don't worry, leave it to me." The young man in the green shirt smiled sinisterly. He loosened his tie and looked at Lai Tai Lam the way a hunter eyes its prey. Under this cold gaze, Lai Tai Lam knew something bad was coming. Nguyen Kyo, weak and shaken, was swept into the man's arms and carried away. He didn't take her back to the Lam Corporation, but to his own home. Gently, he placed her on the bed. Nguyen Kyo still hadn't recovered from the earlier terror. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. The sight pained him. He gently stroked her hair, his voice filled with self-reproach. "I'm so sorry I was late." Overcome with emotion, Nguyen Kyo threw herself into his arms. "Fo Tuhan," she sobbed, "thank you. Thank you for arriving just in time." He soothed and comforted her. "It's all right, it's over now. I promise, I'll never let anyone bully you again, okay?" She nodded, deeply moved, a single escaping her lips. The space between them shrunk, the air thick with unspoken emotion. He couldn't resist the urge to kiss her. But, shyly, she turned her face away, evading his lips. Fo Tuhan leaned closer to Nguyen Kyo. "Mr. Fo," she said, "we're only contractually married." He responded, his voice low, "What if I want to make it real?" "What do you say to that, Nguyen Kyo?" His words stunned her into silence. Then, unable to contain herself, she burst out laughing. "Mr. Fo, don't tease me. What about your flower garden then?" Fo Tuhan reached out and gently ruffled her hair. "Does anyone out there actually believe I'm a playboy? Believe it or not, I don't have a flower garden. There's only you." His words flushed Nguyen Kyo's face crimson. She stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. Finally, she looked directly at him. I'm not ready for a new relationship. So, let's just maintain the status quo for now, okay?" Fo Tuhan, left with no other choice, nodded in agreement. He turned to leave, but Nguyen Kyo quickly grabbed his hand. "Wait," she pleaded. "Could you stay with me? I'm a little scared." How could he refuse such a request? Fo Tuhan sat down on the bed and tucked the covers around her. They held each other close. Nguyen Kyo looked at Fo Tuhan and asked, "Do you think I'm being unfair? Rejecting you, but still wanting you here?" He replied instantly, "Let's see if you dare go looking for Lai Tai Lam again." The mention of Lai Tai Lam's name made her squeeze her eyes shut in frustration. "Don't say it. Don't say it. I regret it so much I could chop my own legs off. Let's just sleep." The next day, at the Lam Corporation, a shareholders' meeting was underway. Mr. Lam gestured towards Kyo. "According to my father's will," he announced, "the position of chairman of the Lam Corporation will be inherited by Kyo. The meeting room buzzed like a marketplace. Since when, someone scoffed, does the Lam family let some chit of a girl, barely old enough to swat a mosquito, take charge? A man beside him nodded in agreement. Exactly, and with Nguyen Kyo engaged to the Fo family, won't the Lam Corporation just become the Fo Corporation? What kind of logic is that? Nguyen Kyo glanced at Old Man Lam, giving him a subtle signal. He spoke up. "If she's a granddaughter, why can't both young ladies be considered? I propose that both Miss Kyo and Miss True Kyo inherit the late chairman's shares, and we re-elect a new chairman." Lam Kyo immediately chimed in. "I appreciate the respect you've shown me, uncles. While I lack experience, I'm eager to learn and willing to help my sister share the burden." Nguyen Kyo then produced the will, declaring firmly, "Grandfather's seal is clearly on this will. On what ground should I share half with Lam True Kyo?" A man slammed his fist on the table and roared, "How dare you try to command us elders? Do you understand respect? You're a disgrace to the Lam family." Despite being directly confronted, Nguyen Kyo remained remarkably composed. With a steely gaze, she retorted, "And I suppose Uncle 2 embezzling $30 million from the company isn't a disgrace to the Lam family?" Another man, presumably Uncle 3, interrupted, "Enough. True Kyo, while your grandfather left a will, if you want to sit in the chairman's seat, you need to show us results that convince us. For now, I declare this meeting adjourned." Nguyen Kyo raised her hand. I've already made preparations. Hasn't the land on the outskirts of the city always been left undeveloped? I've heard that the government has been heavily supporting the tourism industry these past few years. Why don't we take advantage of this and transform that area into a resort village, secluded from the city? Lam Kyo picked up a document. When did she prepare this? She muttered. Nguyen Kyo continued. Young people today are under immense pressure from work. They often want to travel and relax, but they don't have the time to go too far. If we can create a tranquil environment, like an ecological retreat, we can certainly attract a significant number of young visitors. An uncle tossed the document back onto the table, closed his eyes dismissively, and scoffed. This proposal is beautifully written, but it's full of holes. All surface, no substance. It only talks about the positives. What about the actual budget? What about potential problems? What about investors? Nothing. What a waste of time. Nguyen Kyo calmly responded. That was just a preliminary draft. Now, I'll show you the detailed plan. A secretary approached and handed Nguyen Kyo another document. Miss Lam, the secretary addressed her. Have you been struggling with the suburban project? Nguyen Kyo, note that. I only have a preliminary idea, but I lack practical experience in this area, so it's been challenging. The secretary offered the document. Take a look at this, Miss Lam. After reviewing the plan, Nguyen Kyo praised it. This plan is incredibly detailed. The secretary replied, You're too kind. I've been working at the company for 2 years on site at the construction area, so I'm familiar with all the procedures. Nguyen Kyo inquired, What's your name? My name isn't Lam Hai. The secretary introduced herself. Nguyen Kyo felt a surge of triumph. It was a good thing she had come prepared. The meeting concluded as dusk settled. Fo Tu Han was waiting. Seeing him, the company employees began to murmur. Isn't that Miss Lam's fiancé? The young master of the Fo Financial Group? Is that him? He's really handsome. What good is being handsome? I heard he's a notorious playboy. Isn't he just a snake waiting to strike? He might even have to rely on a woman to support him someday. The employees gossiped, their voices rising like the clamor of a marketplace. Nguyen Kyo, emerging from her office, snapped. What are you doing? This is work time, not a gossip session. Who taught you to talk about people behind their backs? Nguyen Kyo's sharp reprimand silenced the employees, each one clamping a hand over their mouth. She strode over to Fo Tu Han, slipping her arm through his, and declared without hesitation, So what if I rely on my husband for support? Arm in arm, the two of them walked away. Talk about power couple, someone muttered. They headed home. After a long day, Nguyen Kyo sank onto the sofa. Finally home, she sighed. Being targeted all day by those uncles on the board is exhausting. Fo Tu Han poured her a glass of water. Handing it to her, he asked, Is there anyone in this world who can actually intimidate Ms. Lam? Nguyen Kyo replied, If I want to secure the chairman position, I have to get through the board. Besides, I don't want my grandfather's hard work to be in vain. Fo Tu Han pressed. Do you really need to push yourself this hard? With the Lam family's wealth, you could live comfortably for the rest of your life, even if you did nothing. Nguyen Kyo turned to him, her expression resolute. But I want to inherit and expand the legacy that my grandfather and mother built. I won't let their life's work be destroyed in my hands. Fo Tu Han was taken aback by her words. She was completely different from the other wealthy heiresses he'd known. Leaning in close, he murmured, As you command, my dear wife. Why don't you come to my company tomorrow and take a look? Maybe you can even lend me a hand. Nguyen Kyo considered his offer, a flicker of suspicion crossing her mind. I have a strange feeling about this, she thought. The next day, at Fo Soi Corporation, Fo Tu Han So Nguyen Kyo Azun. So, what do you think of my company? The name Fo Soi is pretty cool, right? Nguyen Kyo rolled her eyes. Ha ha, you're so full of yourself. Suddenly, a young woman rushed over and clung to Fo Tu Han's arm. Mr. Fo, you're finally here. I missed you so much. Fo Tu Han stiffened, remembering his wife's presence. Hey, my wife is right here. What do you think you're doing? He stammered. The young woman flustered, stuttered. Don't get the wrong idea. She continued, Mr. Fo, who is she? A client? Why is she so young? Nguyen Kyo spoke up, her voice calm but firm. You should address me as Mrs. Fo. The young woman paled. Oh my goodness. Mrs. Fo, I'll just get back to work then. Fo Tu Han leaned in close to Nguyen Kyo, teasing. Are you jealous? Nguyen Kyo retorted. Nonsense. Didn't you want my help analyzing your company? Don't interfere with anything I do or say later. Fo Tuhan blanched at her assertive display of authority. He avoided her gaze, still reeling from her words. Meanwhile, Linda, the young woman from earlier, sat at her desk, face buried in her hands. A co-worker approached and asked, "Linda, what's wrong? Did you have a fight with Mr. Fo?" Linda slammed her hand on the desk. Out of nowhere, a Mrs. Fo appears. "My dreams of marrying rich are shattered." A woman beside her turned and said, "Fo Tuhan is quite the playboy. As the saying goes, it takes two to tango. If you can capture his heart, even a concubine can one day rule the palace." Just then, a loud voice boomed from behind them. "I didn't know the company hired you to teach others how to seduce the boss." When Kyo appeared, her presence radiating an almost ethereal aura. She walked directly towards the payroll department. Turning to the woman beside her, she continued, "Oh, and as for you, this company doesn't need employees with such devious minds." Wen Kyo then made a sweeping declaration. "Starting today, weekly work reports will be submitted to the department heads. Department heads will report directly to Mr. Fo. During working hours, refrain from engaging in non-work-related activities like playing games or snacking. If you complete your assigned tasks early and meet quality standards, you may leave early. However, if anyone is found to be harboring ulterior motives, they will be terminated." Witnessing Wen Kyo's commanding performance, Fo Tuhan was inwardly terrified. "I'm doomed. My carefree days are over." The next day at Lam Corporation, Wen Kyo presided over a board meeting. After going through the agenda, she addressed the room. "Does anyone have any opinions on the resort village proposal? If so, please speak now." Old Man Lam was the first to speak. "I still object to a woman leading Lam Corporation. This has nothing to do with the project itself." His words ignited a flurry of whispers throughout the room. "Exactly. How can a woman be in charge? It's inevitable that she'll be too emotional. Besides, women eventually marry. Doesn't that mean we're just handing the company over to someone else?" Wen Kyo's hands clenched, trembling with barely suppressed fury. "So you mean," she began, her voice tinged with sadness, "no matter how hard I try, no matter how capable I am, I can't inherit Lam Corporation?" Uncle 3, his face beaming with barely concealed glee, nodded eagerly. "Exactly." Just then, the door opened and a voice rang out. "What if Wen Kyo is the largest shareholder of Lam Corporation?" Every head in the room swiveled towards the door in stunned silence. It was Fo Tuhan, strolling in with an air of casual confidence. Old Man Lam, bewildered, asked, "What do you mean?" Wen Kyo, turning to Fo Tuhan, questioned, "Why are you here?" At Wen Kyo's question, Fo Tuhan swiftly reached for her hand. "I'm here to protect my wife," he declared, then turned to Old Man Lam. "Uncle 2, you have plenty of time to gossip. Why don't you check who the largest shareholder of Lam Corporation currently is before we continue this conversation?" Old Man Lam immediately pulled out his phone to check. His face darkened dramatically. He stammered, "Why will you? You bought up all the outstanding shares of Lam Corporation?" Fo Tuhan replied with a smile. "That's right. I used Wen Kyo's name. Is there a problem?" One by one, the meeting attendees silently rose and filed out of the room without a word. Old Man Lam stood frozen in place, ashen-faced. Uncle 3 approached Wen Kyo, placing a hand on her shoulder. "It seems that the Fo family boy treats you well. Hold on tight to him. Remember what I told you." He then turned and walked away. Wen Kyo watched him go, a bitter understanding dawning in her heart. For a father, it was always about the family's interests. For the sake of appearances, anyone could be sacrificed. Wen Kyo placed her hand on Fo Tuhan's arm. He looked at her with adoration. "Did you cause some trouble? Are you thinking about how to thank me?" Wen Kyo replied softly, "I really am very grateful to you today. Thank you so much." A thought suddenly struck Wen Kyo. She mused to herself, "I can't rely on Fo Tuhan forever. I have to be strong enough on my own to shut everyone up, so they can't gossip behind my back." The scene shifted back to the Fo family villa, where Wen Kyo was preparing a lavish meal. All the dishes were cooked to perfection and laid out on the table. While preparing the meal, Wen Kyo suddenly thought, "Wait, why does it feel like I'm the one proposing to Fo Tuhan?" She clapped her hands and announced, "Fo Tuhan helped me out with something big today. Cooking him a thank you meal isn't too much, is it? This isn't some candlelit dinner or anything, haha." Hearing the sound of the door opening, Wen Kyo realized Fo Tuhan had returned home. She quickly slipped into another room so he wouldn't see her. He slowly opened the door and stepped inside. Seeing the lavish spread on the table, Fo Tu-han thought to himself, she must be so touched she's crying. Does she want to confess her feelings to me? Ha! Wen Kyo, now in a more alluring outfit, emerged from the room holding a gift box. She looked at Fo Tu-han and said, "You're home." Fo Tu-han, noticing the box in her hand, blushed. He thought, is this a proposal? But it's not really right for a woman to propose. I've never heard of such a thing. Wen Kyo opened the box. It wasn't a ring, but a tie. Smiling brightly, she said, "Thank you for helping me out today. This is a gift for you." Fo Tu-han felt like he'd been completely misled. He thought a tie. I thought it was something else. Picking up the tie, he asked, "This tie is for me? Then you can put on for me. Better than nothing, I guess." Following his suggestion, Wen Kyo began to tie the tie around his neck. Fo Tu-han took the opportunity to place his hand on her waist. He pulled her closer, their eyes meeting, their faces inches apart, lips almost touching. For a moment, it seemed like a passionate kiss was inevitable. But instead, Wen Kyo continued tying his tie. Once finished, they both turned away, pretending nothing had happened. Suddenly, a noise outside the door startled them both, breaking the awkward silence. Wen Kyo smoothed her hair and said to Fo Tu-han, "Who is it this late? I'll go open the door." Opening the door, she saw a strange young woman she didn't recognize. Wen Kyo asked, "Who are you?" The woman retorted, "I should be asking who you are. Where's Mr. Fo?" "I'm looking for Mr. Fo." Spotting Fo Tu-han, she pushed past Wen Kyo and said to him, "Mr. Fo, my shower's broken. Can I shower at your place?" Before she could finish her sentence, Wen Kyo rushed forward and shoved the woman back towards the door. With her arms crossed, she asked in a commanding voice, "Do you know who I am to behave like this?" The brazen young woman replied, "I don't care who you are. Mr. Fo used to dote on me." Wen Kyo pressed further. "What kind of pampering are we talking about?" Fo Tu-han retorted, "I'd have to be crazy to believe such a blatant lie. There was never any field of flowers like you're suggesting." Flushing, the young woman continued, "He was very gentle with me in bed, and more than that." Fo Tu-han, who had been listening until this point, stormed over, pointed a finger at the woman's face, and yelled, "What did you just say? Don't spout such nonsense. Who are you? Get out. I don't know you. Are you insane? Don't say things like that." He immediately shoved the young woman out the door and slammed it shut. Thoroughly shaken, Fo Tu-han turned to Wen Kyo and stammered, I really don't know her." Faced with his flustered denials, Wen Kyo turned and walked towards the door. Slamming the door behind her, she called out, "I don't care whether you know her or not. We're just contractually married, after all. But for the duration of our agreement, please try to restrain yourself, Mr. Fo. Having people show up at the door like this is unacceptable." Fo Tu-han stood rooted to the spot, speechless, unable to offer a single word in response. He then pulled out his phone and called someone. "Hello, release the hounds. I mean the vinegar." He was, it seemed, speaking to his ever-helpful assistant. "Taman Thuan, it's bad. Tu-han, that woman who came to the bar last time, crying and clinging and trying to trick you. She's at your apartment. Good heavens, you're only calling me now? Why not wait until I'm dead and gone?" After hanging up, Fo Tu-han went and knocked on the door. "Will you open the door, please? I can answer any questions you have." Wen Kyo walked to the door, her hand on the knob, then paused. "Wen Kyo, weren't you hurt enough by men in your past life? Even though you know Fo Tu-han isn't like that, do you really want to drag him into your abyss of revenge?" After a moment, Wen Kyo still didn't open the door. She called out, "It's not necessary, Mr. Fo. I have no questions. All men are the same." Fo Tu-han pushed the door open and stepped inside. He managed a single word, before Wen Kyo cut him off. "Mr. Fo, you don't need to give up an entire forest for a single tree like me, do you?" He turned and said, "In that case, I'll head back to the villa." He closed the door and left, leaving Wen Kyo alone once more. "Finally gone," she murmured, cracking the door open and watching Fo Tu-han's retreating figure with a melancholic expression. "Fo Tu-han, I can't drag you into this quagmire before I've had my revenge." Meanwhile, Fo Tu-han stood by his car, looking up at the apartment. "Wen Kyo, just how important is Lai Toai Lam to you, to have wounded you so deeply?" Lost in thought, he got into his car and drove away, his gaze lingering on the building where Nguyen Kyo remained. Fo Tu-han was still deeply puzzled. Could I have gotten something wrong? Meanwhile, in the distance, someone was watching their every move. Follow them closely. Report any unusual activity to the organization. The figure behind him nodded. Understood. Fo Tu-han returned home to his mother. Seeing him, she asked, "Why are you back? Where's Kyo-san?" Fo Tu-han replied, "She's been very tired lately. I didn't want to disturb her, so I came home for a few days." He sat down, took his mother's hand, and said gently, "Mother, has anything unusual been happening around the house lately? I felt like someone was watching us as I came in." Hearing Fo Tu-han's words, his mother immediately wondered if it could be the Hunters organization. Maintaining a calm facade, she said, "Nonsense, you're seeing things. A young wolf like you, not yet fully matured, has terrible vigilance. Do you remember what I told you when you were little? Never reveal your true nature to the outside world, or you'll be treated as an outsider and ostracized." Fo Tu-han immediately understood. He closed his eyes, sighed, and said, all right, mother, I understand." He thought to himself, if mother didn't see anything, then it didn't happen. Besides, neither Tan Man Thuan nor Nguyen Kyo have ostracized me. With that thought, he stood up and said to his mother, "Mother, I'm going upstairs to take a shower and rest. You should go to bed early." Fo Tu-han left, and his mother watched him go, thinking the full moon is just a few days away. I must find a way to lure those outsiders in. The scene shifted to the next day at Lam Corporation. Nguyen Kyo sat anxiously, lost in thought. Was I too harsh with him yesterday? I wonder if Fo Tu-han is upset with me. She picked up her phone, hesitant. Should I apologize to him? But look, it's already 6 p.m. Time flies. Work is over. I'll go find Fo Tu-han and talk to him first. I'll figure out the rest later. Nguyen Kyo headed down to the parking garage. Walking through the darkness, Nguyen Kyo suddenly stopped. A jolt of fear ran through her as she realized someone was following her. This isn't good. Someone's tailing me. I'm in danger. Sensing the presence behind her, Nguyen Kyo paused beside a car and quickly called Fo Tu-han. "Hello, Fo Tu-han. I'm in a company parking lot. I think I'm being followed," she whispered, ducking behind car. Fo Tu-han's voice was urgent. "Find a good hiding spot now. I'm on my way. Wait for me." Ending the call, Nguyen Kyo ran towards her own car. Almost instantly, she saw the group of men who had been following her. Their faces were menacing, armed with knives and clubs, and they were heading straight for her. With all her might, she sprinted towards the building and burst through the doors. Frantically pressing the elevator button, she thought, "Faster, please, faster. I'm running out of time." Realizing the elevator was taking too long, Nguyen Kyo decided to take the stairs. Just as she reached the stairwell door, a hand grabbed her arm. It was Fo Tu-han. He covered her mouth and whispered, "Shh, don't make a sound. It's me." He could hear the men shouting. Where is she? She clearly ran this way. The elevator hasn't arrived. She vanished into thin air. The thugs, still brandishing their weapons, approached the stairwell. One of them looked at the door and said, "Boss, there's no one here. Let's check somewhere else." Fo Tu-han cautiously peeked out to observe the thugs. As he did, a club slammed into his head with brutal force, sending him reeling. He pressed himself against the door, a shield against the angry shouts of the thugs outside. Inside, Lam Nguyen Kyo, trapped and terrified by the loud thud against the blocked door, cried out, "Fo Tu-han, what are you doing? Open the door." Dark blood trickled from a wound on Fo Tu-han's head, streaming down his face and blurring his left eye. He spoke defiantly to the thugs. "If you have a problem, take it up with me. What kind of men attack a woman? Don't be cowards." The thugs surged forward, surrounding Fo Tu-han. He fought back fiercely, striking out left and right, raising an arm to deflect a blow from one of their clubs. Just then, a thug lunged forward with a knife, slashing Fo Tu-han across the stomach. The agonizing pain doubled him over, but he staggered back towards the door, gasping, "Come on then, if you're so tough." The thugs exchanged fearful glances. Boss, if someone dies, it'll be bad news." Their leader trembled, then yelled, "Retreat, retreat, get out of here." The thugs scattered. Fo Tu-han, groaning in pain, collapsed to the ground. Lam Nguyen Kyo, finally able to force the door open, saw Fo Tu-han lying on the ground. She rushed to his side, crying out, "Fo Tu-han, what happened? Don't scare me. I'll take you to the hospital. Just hold on." His hand was slick with blood, his face flushed. Weakly, he murmured, "No need to rush. I'm not going to meet my ancestors just yet." He was rushed to the hospital. Outside the emergency room, Lam Nguyen Kyo paced, her head in her hands, praying. Fo Tu Han's mother arrived, her face etched with worry. Kyo, what happened? Why is Tu Han so badly injured? Lam Nguyen Kyo stood up and took her hand. Auntie, I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. Fo Tu Han was protecting me. That's why this happened. Fo Tu Han's mother tried to comfort her. I can't believe those men were so brazen. Now that things have come to this, she continued, I should tell you the truth. She began to explain the history of the Fo family. Centuries ago, the Fo family were royalty of the Wolf clan. But due to inter-clan conflicts and the changing times, the Wolf clan declined and the Fo family's bloodline weakened. Until Tu Han was born. He carries the royal blood of the Wolf clan. His birth brought a resurgence of power to the Fo family, but it also attracted the attention of the Hunter organization. They've been watching us ever since. As Lam Nguyen Kyo listened, everything began to make sense. Auntie, do you mean the people who attacked me in the parking garage today? Could they be from the Hunter organization? She thought back to the attack. No wonder. I thought I was just dizzy and seeing things. Fo Tu Han's mother looked at her gravely. Kyo, I'm so happy you're going to be my daughter-in-law. But being part of the Fo family isn't easy. I can't put you in danger. If you want, you can leave at any time for your own safety. Do you understand? Lam Nguyen Kyo was stunned into silence. She turned back to Fo Tu Han, still unconscious on the bed, her heart heavy with worry. Fo Tu Han's mother's words echoed in her mind. He will face many dangers. Leaving is the best choice. But Lam Nguyen Kyo walked over and placed her hand on Fo Tu Han's face. Fo Tu Han, she whispered, you haven't yet given me what you owe me. How can I leave? She sat watching over him for a while when suddenly Fo Tu Han stirred. He opened his eyes, blinking and looking around in confusion. Lam Nguyen Kyo, who had been working, glanced over and saw that Fo Tu Han had awakened. Han, she said softly, you're awake. She came to his side and placed a hand on him. Are you feeling any discomfort? I'll go call the doctor to check on you. Fo Tu Han took her hand and smiled weakly. Go ahead and call the doctor first. Lam Nguyen Kyo left the room. While she was gone, Fo Tu Han opened her laptop and began looking through it. On the screen, a conversation was displayed. The contractor messaged, Boss Lam, the construction time isn't sufficient and the budget needs to be increased. The site supervisor added, Boss Lam, the weather has been extreme lately. We need to upgrade the materials or they won't hold up. Fo Tu Han thought to himself, she's being worn down by all of this. He was engrossed in reading when Lam Nguyen Kyo returned. He quickly closed the laptop and settled back into bed. The doctor arrived to examine Fo Tu Han. Fo Tu Han's mother stood anxiously beside the doctor. How's my son? She asked. After the examination, the doctor replied, his vital signs are stable, but he needs to rest and avoid strenuous activity so the wound can heal properly. Lam Nguyen Kyo's phone rang. I told you I can't go now. Can I go tomorrow? She said into the phone. From behind her, Fo Tu Han spoke. Just go and take care of your work. Lam Nguyen Kyo turned to look at him. He said gently, go on. I know how important this project is to you. Fo Tu Han's mother also turned to Lam Nguyen Kyo and said, I know how difficult it is for a woman to carry the weight of a company. You go. Everything will be all right here. Lam Nguyen Kyo nodded and smiled gratefully. After she left, Fo Tu Han spoke seriously to his mother. Mom, I want to learn how to take over the company. His mother was quite surprised by this request. She lightly tapped him on the head. Son, did you hit your head too hard? Fo Tu Han sighed. Stop it, Mom. I'm being serious. Realizing her son wasn't joking, his mother seemed to understand. I see. You're worried about Kyo, aren't you? He quickly replied, No, I'm not worried. I'm concerned about you, Mom. The next day, following his mother's arrangements, an assistant brought a stack of documents for him to review. He held a tablet in one hand and papers in the other, flipping back and forth. Noticing the assistant lingering, he dismissed him. Assistant Lam, I understand now. I can compare these myself. You can go. Thank you for your guidance today. Assistant Lam smiled. Don't mention it, young master. You're too kind. Seeing you thinking this way makes me happy for Madam. After a few more pleasantries, Assistant Lam said goodbye and left. Fo Tu Han diligently studied the documents for hours. Suddenly, thunder and lightning crashed outside the window, startling him. He turned to look. Why is it so dark already? He felt a growing unease and kept glancing at his phone. Why hasn't she messaged me all day? He had just picked up his phone when he received a weather alert. The National Weather Service issued a warning. Typhoon number 9 is currently approaching. Please take all necessary precautions. Reading this, he felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. He called her repeatedly, but all he got was her voicemail. He anxiously made another 10 calls, but still couldn't reach Nguyen. A cold sweat broke out across his skin. He tossed the documents aside, no longer able to focus on studying them. He quickly typed out a message. Lam Nguyen, have you finished work yet? Call me when you're done. 30 minutes crawled by, but still no word from her. Tension gnawed at him as he called his friend. Hey, look up the address of Lam Corporation's resort development project and send it to my phone. On the other end, his friend questioned, what's going on? You're not planning on going to the site now, are you? He answered, already pulling on his jacket. She hasn't messaged me all day. I just tried calling her and couldn't get through. I'm worried something happened. His friend's voice, laced with concern, came through the line. Maybe Lam Nguyen just fell asleep and didn't see your messages. It's pouring rain out there, and you're still recovering. Are you trying to kill yourself? Pho Tu-han bristled at his friend's nagging. Cut the crap, he snapped, opening the door to leave, only to be blocked by 2 bodyguards. His face darkened. Get out of my way. The guard stood firm, trying to reason with him. Young master, please go back to bed. Your mother instructed us not to let you leave until you're fully recovered. He hadn't even finished speaking before Pho Tu-han punched him in the face. His patience had worn thin. I said, get out of my way. His mother, arriving just then, saw her son's outburst and her face hardened. Who are you telling to get out of the way? His aggressive demeanor instantly softened. He rushed to his mother, taking her hand. Mother, something might have happened to Kyo. Let me go find her. Though worried about Nguyen herself, his mother was even more concerned for her son. She patted his hand reassuringly. I know you're worried about Kyo. I've already sent someone to the construction site. The weather is terrible and you're still weak. Going out there now would be suicide. His friend stepped forward, attempting to guide Pho Tu-han back into his room, but he coldly shrugged him off. Without hesitation, he landed another blow on his friend's face. You told my mother, didn't you? I thought we were brothers. The young man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his voice devoid of accusation. I know you care for her, but I can't stand by and watch the only heir to the Wolf clan's royal bloodline risk his life for one woman. Pho Tu-han, seeing that no one intended to let him leave, cried out in anguish, Mother! He lowered his head, his voice thick with despair. Do you really want to stop me? Finally abandoning his stubborn facade, he confessed, you were right. My sudden interest in taking over the company, my decision to stop my reckless behavior, all of it, it's all because of Lam Nguyen. Pho Tu-han's eyes, clear and earnest, met his mother's. He poured out the words from the depths of his heart. Mother, I love her. Not because she can help me run the company, not because of some notion of social standing. I love her simply because she's her. His mother's eyes widened in surprise. My son, you always knew? Mother, I'm your son. How could I not understand your considerations? Pho Tu-han voiced the thoughts that had long occupied his mother's mind. She has no support from the Lam family, but she's educated and capable. Making her the young mistress of the Pho Corporation would allow her to both assist the company and alleviate any concerns about her exploiting our family to benefit the Lam family. Madame Pho chuckled, praising him. Indeed, you are my son. She truly is the best choice I've considered, but beyond all that, I genuinely like her. Pho Tu-han, with a serious expression, proposed a 2-year plan. In 2 years, I will take over the entire Pho Corporation, on the condition that you don't stop me today. Faced with his resolute words, Madame Pho finally compromised. All right, but the fastest ambulance can only leave tomorrow morning. You two will have to persevere tonight. He cheerfully expressed his gratitude. Thank you, Mother. Despite the pouring rain, he climbed onto his scooter and sped off. While driving, he persistently called her. Lam Nguyen, please answer the phone. Finally, someone picked up on the other end. Her weak voice echoed through the phone. Hello? This sound made Pho Tu-han even more anxious. Hello, Lam Nguyen. How are you now? Are you hurt? I'm almost there, just hold on. At the construction site, Nguyen leaned weakly against a wall, saying, I'm okay, but I think I've sprained my ankle. Hold on, I'll definitely get you out. He immediately slammed on the accelerator and sped off. Very quickly, Pho Tu-han arrived at the construction site where Nguyen had been overseeing work that day. He stumbled out of the scooter, clutching a first aid kit. Due to the storm, some of the scaffolding had collapsed. He kicked a board aside, continuously calling out, Lam Nguyen, where are you? Can you hear me? As he searched for her, a heavy plank fell on his shoulder. Despite the pain, he suppressed a cry and threw the plank off. A little further on, he spotted a flashlight beam. He cried out joyfully, "Lam Wen Kyo, is that you?" She appeared to be unconscious, unresponsive to his calls. Fo Tu Han rushed to her side. Checking her forehead, he was startled by her high temperature. Why is she so hot? He quickly opened the first aid kit and searched for fever medication. Despite his efforts, he couldn't get her to take the medicine. Lam Wen Kyo, open your mouth and take the medicine. Left with no other choice, he put the pill in his own mouth, took a large gulp of water, and then, with deep affection, transferred the dissolved medicine into her mouth. In her delirium, she murmured his name repeatedly. Fo Tu Hung, Fo Tu Hung. He anxiously held her close. I'm here. He didn't know how much time passed, but finally, her fever subsided. Lam Wen Kyo slowly opened her eyes. She was surprised to find him holding her. Her hand involuntarily reached out and touched the face of the man beside her, thinking he's seriously injured, yet he still came to save me. How many times has he saved me now? Fo Tu Han, how will I ever repay this debt? As she stared at his face, lost in thought, he stirred and woke up. Q, you're awake? Are you still feverish? It was then that she noticed his bleeding wound, staining his shirt crimson. Your wound is bleeding, she exclaimed worriedly. Take off your shirt so I can change the dressing. Even though you're hurt, you're still teasing me. Are you in such a hurry? Are you trying to take advantage of the situation or something? A sharp pain shot through Fo Tu Han's shoulder, causing him to cry out softly. Lam Wen Kyo instantly panicked. What's wrong? Are you hurt somewhere else? When she saw the numerous wounds crisscrossing his back, her face couldn't hide her shock. What happened to you? He calmly reassured her. It's nothing. I got hit by a falling door yesterday when I arrived. These few scratches aren't a big deal. As she dabbed antiseptic on his wounds, she scolded him, her voice thick with worry. Are you stupid? Why didn't you wait until the rain stopped? Then nothing like this would have happened. Sensing her distress, he joked, if this dilapidated project of yours had actually managed to kill you, who would I sign a contract with? His tone turned serious. This time, you need to investigate the people within your company. If this is the quality of your resort, even if you manage to finish construction, I'm afraid all that awaits you are countless lawsuits. His admonition sobered her, and she fell into deep thought. Seeing her lost in contemplation, he said gently, Kyo Kyo, I don't know what deep-seated grudge you have with the Lam family that's driving you to risk everything to reclaim Lam Corporation. He stood up and took her hand, his voice sincere. But, Fo Tu Han, I am willing to support you unconditionally, even if it means sacrificing everything I have. Touched by his heartfelt words, she asked, aren't you afraid that I approached you from the beginning just to swindle Fo Corporation's money? He chuckled. I've started learning how to manage the family business now. This young master is so clever. Do you think you could trick me? His words made her laugh. You're the biggest braggart I know. They embraced, laughing happily together in the aftermath of the storm. After the tempest had passed, Madame Fo sent someone to take them both to the hospital. Fo Tu Han's old wounds, aggravated by his strenuous activity and the new injuries on his back, caused his fever to return. Kyo, when anxiously watched the doctor examine him. Doctor, how is he? The doctor sighed wearily. Old wounds reopened, combined with new ones, and not treated promptly, have led to infection. Fortunately, his constitution is strong, but he'll likely have some scarring. Madame Fo, perceptive as ever, noticed Keon Wen's guilt. She offered a reassuring smile. Oh, a few scars make a man look more distinguished. Kyo, you don't need to worry about it. Keon Wen couldn't bear to face Madame Fo. She stood up, making an excuse to leave. I'll just step outside to make a phone call. Auntie, please take care of Tu Han. Madame Fo readily agreed. Of course, go ahead. Keon Wen quickly slipped out the door. Once it was closed behind her, her face was etched with sadness and self-reproach. Since the board meeting, quite a few unfortunate incidents had occurred, both in the parking lot and at the construction site. Although Madame Fo claimed that the Hunters organization was targeting Fo Tu Han, and she was merely collateral damage, Kyo Wen wasn't convinced. A thought suddenly struck her. She murmured, Uncle too. As if to confirm her suspicion, she pulled out her phone and dialed. Hello, Lam Hai. I need you to investigate something for me. I need you to look into the fluctuations in my Uncle Two's bank account and the expenditures for the projects he's managed over the past few years. On the other end of the line, Lam Hai, receiving the instructions, responded while simultaneously checking her computer. Just then, the purple-haired young man arrived to visit Fo Tu Han. Seeing this, she approached him. Tan, there's something I need your help with. The young man seemed hesitant. What is it? With Tu-Han still unconscious, I can't easily agree to anything. Her face icy, Lam when Kyo spoke curtly. It concerns Foe Tu-Han. Then, she leaned in and whispered in his ear. The purple-haired young man was surprised by her request. Is this for real? Can you really pull this off? A cold smile played on her lips. He's just a stranger, related by blood, nothing more. The young man was thoroughly impressed by her decisiveness. As long as it benefits Tu-Han, I'm always willing to help. With an ally secured, Kyo felt more confident. Then, thank you. After their agreement, they both returned to Foe Tu-Han's hospital room. Kyo noticed Madame Foe sitting heavily on the sofa, her expression burdened. Kyo approached her solicitously. Andy, what's wrong? Madame Foe looked at her, voicing her concerns. Tu-Han might be starting to change, and I'm truly happy. But I'm truly worried for his safety. 2 incidents like this in a row, it frightens me. Kyo gently squeezed Madame Foe's shoulder, offering reassurance. Don't worry, Auntie. No matter what happens in the future, I'll face it with him. Madame Foe was deeply moved by Kyo's understanding. Kyo, in the end, it's our Foe family that's dragged you into this. No, Annie, aside from the Hunter organization, it's probably me who's dragged him into this. Meanwhile, in some entertainment venue, Kyo's uncle too had a woman on each arm. Mr. Lamb, drink up. He chuckled lecherously. How can I drink if you don't feed me? Another young man sitting nearby seized the opportunity to interject while Uncle Two was in a good mood. Mr. Lamb, about the construction materials at the Lamb Corporation construction site. Shouldn't our Tan family also? Before he could finish, Uncle Two cut him off. Little Mr. Tan, with the Tan family's resources and power, surely you're not interested in such a small sum? Besides, aren't you afraid the Foe family will come after you? The young man downed his drink in one gulp, then unleashed a torrent of pent-up resentment. The Foe family? I've been sick of them for a long time. They think they can order the Tan family around like servants with their dirty money. Just wait until I'm richer than the Foe family. We'll see how they survive then. Huh. Uncle Two laughed. As expected, little Mr. Tan understands the bigger picture. Don't worry, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. This is simple. The young man, satisfied, laughed along. Haha, then I'll have to trouble Mr. Lamb. Consider these 2 beauties a gift to brighten your day. He didn't stop there. He also handed over land deeds as a bribe, and the key to Villa Number 1 with the best view in Tanjong. It's yours, Mr. Lamb, starting today. Mr. Lamb's eyes gleamed as he greedily accepted the offerings. Excellent, excellent. Kyo and the purple-haired young man had overheard their entire conversation, not missing a single word. Kyo let out a cold laugh. Ah, my dear Uncle Two, you truly are a skilled termite. It's our turn now. With the ferocity of a tigress, she strode towards the room and kicked the door open. I almost died at the construction site last night, and here you are, enjoying yourself. The young man, realizing his scheme had been exposed, quickly tried to shift the blame. I was wrong. Mr. Lamb coerced me into doing this. Both he and Uncle Two were swiftly apprehended by the purple-haired young man's bodyguards. The purple-haired youth pulled a small blade from his person, causing Uncle Two to tremble in fear. WH, what do you want to do? The young man rolled up his sleeves, a sinister smile playing on his lips. What else? Beat you until you confess, of course. Uncle Two immediately turned to Lam Nguyen Kyo, pleading, Kyo, save me. I'm your uncle. This is all the Tan family's fault. They kept bribing me with the keys to Villa Number 1, and they even wanted to give me these 2 beauties. Kyo held up the video she had recorded earlier, a chilling smile gracing her features. Is this what you call being framed, Uncle? Uncle Two's demeanor instantly shifted to one of anger. Damn it, so it was you who set me up. Don't forget, your surname is Lamb, not Foe. You're not content with using the Foe family's money to prop up the Lamb family, and now you're turning around and harming your own family. The words own family ignited Kyo's fury. She grabbed his shirt, her voice rising. Family? If you hadn't swapped the construction materials, causing the site to collapse, would Foe Tu-Han and I have almost died? When you wanted me dead, did you think about family then? Without another word, she snatched the blade from the purple-haired young man, surprising him. With the blade pressed against Uncle Two's throat, his face paled with terror. Don't. I'll give you anything you want. Kyo's voice was ice cold. If you want to keep your position in Lamb Corp, stay away from my man. An aura of lethal intent radiated from her as she delivered her warning. My man is not someone you can touch. Her imposing presence filled the purple-haired young man with admiration. Damn, sister-in-law is so badass. Uncle 2 was rendered speechless by her overwhelming aura. Kyo's expression remained impassive as she tossed the blade aside. Uncle, you're getting on in years. I'm afraid you're no longer suited to participate in the company's decision-making. Here's a share purchase agreement. Why don't you sign it? Considering we're family, I'll even give you a little extra. Having recovered from his fright, Uncle 2 put on a nonchalant air. You think you can dismiss me? The board of directors needs to vote on that. A little brat like you doesn't get to decide. As soon as he finished speaking, a bodyguard twisted his arm behind his back. Kyo tossed a stack of documents at his feet. Then perhaps you should reconsider, Uncle. Uncle 2's face tensed as he saw the documents. He picked them up, his eyes widening. Where did you get these? From within the company? Clearly. Kyo cut him off with a cold laugh. Clearly, they all belong to you, Uncle. Am I right? Realizing he had no way out, Uncle 2 glared at her with unconcealed rage. Kyo knew about his private dealings because she had instructed NAMA-MANGAI to investigate. As Mr. Lam had suspected, none of the company projects Uncle 2 had managed in recent years had clean accounts. Upon hearing the report, Kyo had scoffed. My father always valued the Lam family's reputation, so he never dared to take action against you. That's why you've been so arrogant. But unfortunately for you, I'm not my father. Uncle, what do you think of my offer now? Defeated, Uncle 2 slumped. Fine, I'll sign. At the Lam family residence, the second wife, upon hearing the news, was incredibly upset. What? She shrieked into the phone. How could this happen? How dare that little wretch do this? Trazan, sitting beside her, anxiously asked, Mother, what's wrong? What did Uncle 2 say? Her mother, seething with resentment, replied, Your Uncle 2 has been ensnared by Lam Kyo. He sold all his shares to her. Trazan's face was etched with discontent. What? Wasn't it a sure thing that she'd become the chairwoman of Lam Corporation? What am I supposed to do now? Am I doomed to live under her thumb forever? Her mother, equally furious, slammed her hand down on the armrest. Who told you to be so useless? You can't even hold onto a man. She continued to lament. Oh, what am I going to do with you? Trazan, stunned that her mother was placing all the blame on her, stared blankly for a moment. Then, with a bitter laugh, she retorted, Who told me to be the daughter of a mistress? Her mother, speechless with rage, sputtered, You. The second wife covered her face with her hands in despair. Her daughter's voice cut through the silence. Instead of wasting your breath blaming me, why don't you think about what we should do next? Don't forget, we're in the same boat. If I sink, you'll go down with me. Her mother's hands trembled. If we can't rely on our own family, then we'll have to turn to the person who hates Lam Kyo the most. Trazan quickly grasped her mother's meaning. You mean Old Man Muck? On the other end of the city, Old Man Muck received the call and answered with a sinister chuckle. Hello, Mrs. Lam. What can I do for you? The next day, Kyo was about to leave the office after finishing her work when Lam-Hai approached her. Kyo, he asked, haven't you looked at the plans for the resort's grand opening ceremony yet? I'm heading to the hospital now, she replied. I have some things to attend to there. I'll let you know later. Lam-Hai's eyes twinkled mischievously. Ooh, it seems things are getting sweeter between you and Fo Tu-han. Kyo blushed at his teasing. Just get to work, she retorted. Don't ask questions you shouldn't be asking. Madame Fo, Tu-han's mother, arrived. I'll take over for you. Why don't you go home and rest? She offered kindly. Madame Fo beamed. Haha, all right. Thank you so much, dear. You've been running back and forth between the company and the hospital. You've lost so much weight recently. Kyo took Madame Fo's hand warmly. Tu-han was injured because of me. I wouldn't feel right leaving his care to anyone else. Fo Tu-han, overhearing the conversation, felt a warmth spread through him. At least you have a conscience, he murmured. Madame Fo, thinking of the hunters, said, Oh, that's right. You two can rest easy about the hunter organization for now. I found a way to divert their attention elsewhere. Kyo breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, but we can only hide for so long, Madame Fo continued. We still need to find a permanent solution. Madame Fo nodded in agreement as Kyo spoke. You're right. I've sent people to search for the formula for the suppressant. After the Gu family's downfall, the formula disappeared. We don't even know if it still exists. Although Kyo knew the situation was dire, she tried to remain positive. Don't worry, we'll find it. And even if we don't, there are other ways. We can't give up. Thank you, Kyo, Madame Fo said gratefully. Time flew by. A month later, Kyo was in a meeting when she saw Fo Tu-han waiting for her at the door. She turned back to address those present in the meeting. The grand opening of our resort is scheduled for 2 days from now. I hope everyone will put in a little extra effort. All right, meeting adjourned. Seeing him arrive at this hour, she was rather curious. Why are you here? Don't tell me the doctor discharged you already. He affectionately stroked her hair. If I didn't get discharged, I'd be covered in moss by now. Let's go home. She smiled sweetly, radiating happiness as she followed him. Their affectionate exchange was witnessed by Tra Zan, who stood watching from behind, consumed with jealousy. Lam Wenkyo, what right do you have? I'm here suffering, while you enjoy such a blissful life. Suddenly, the phone in her pocket rang. Seeing that the caller was Old Man Muck, she panicked. Old Man Muck is calling. Tra Zan, suppressing her trembling, answered the call. Old Man Muck's oily chuckle echoed through the phone. Kyo, come home early after work. I prepared a gift for you. Trazan had no choice but to agree. She shuddered, recalling a chilling encounter from a month earlier when she and her mother had sought Old Man Muck's assistance. Madam Lam, on what basis do you think I need to cooperate with you? Trazan's mother had said confidently, because I'm Madam Lam, and I can grasp all of Lam Wenkyo's movements, even all the movements of the Lam family. Moreover, if anything happens, I can immediately report it to you. If we cooperate, wouldn't everything go smoothly? He immediately cut her off. How laughable. My subordinates aren't so useless as to need a woman to gather information. Otherwise, do you think I could have built my empire from nothing, Madam Lam? Seeing the negotiation failing, the mother and daughter prepared to leave. If that's the case, we won't bother you any longer. We'll take our leave. Old Man Muck approached them and stopped them. Hold on. Everyone says the two daughters of the Lam family are the most beautiful, truly exquisite. As he spoke, he lightly pinched her waist. His next lewd remark, as he leered at her, made her freeze, realizing the unsavory nature of this fat man's attention. Meeting you today, I see you've inherited Madam Lam's beauty. She felt insulted by his words. Mr. Muck, be careful what you say. He raised his hands in a gesture of innocence. I wouldn't dare have any improper thoughts about Madam Lam. However, Old Man Muck shifted his gaze to Lam Kyo. The Lam family seems to owe me a wife. Now that the eldest daughter is engaged to the Faux family, wouldn't the second daughter be suitable? Her mother immediately pulled her back, putting distance between them. Mr. Muck, what do you mean? You're pushing this too far. He sat down on the sofa with a feigned air of respectability and shrugged. Well then, Madam Lam and Miss Lam, feel free to leave. Oh, and by the way, while Lam Wenkyo hasn't completely taken control of Lam Corp, you two should enjoy your comfortable lives for a few more days. His words successfully ignited a competitive fire within Lam Kyo. Mother, wait. I think Mr. Muck is right. We have no other choice. I don't want to wait until Lam Wenkyo takes everything from us. Her parents tried to dissuade her, but Trazan wouldn't listen. Her mind was consumed by images of Lam Wenkyo's blissful happiness with Fo Tu Han, juxtaposed with Lai Toai Lam's cold indifference. These thoughts fueled her burning resentment towards Wenkyo. Mr. Muck, she began, I might agree to your terms, but I don't want just these things. Old Man Muck, his goal within reach, chuckled lecherously. Oh, and what else might you desire, my dear? Trazan, her mask of innocence slipping, revealed her venomous nature. I want all of Lam Corp's assets. And Wenkyo and Lai Toai Lam, they both have to die. He roared with laughter, pulling Trazan closer. A woman with such grand ambitions, you're worthy of being mine. He then handed her a dress, so revealing it left little to the imagination. Her eagerness sparked his interest. Kyo, feeling forward today, are we? She purred. Serving you is my duty, Mr. Muck. I've come to understand that only by pleasing you can I get what I want. Kyo, you truly understand the current situation. So, tell me, what is it you desire? Trazan immediately laid out her plan. In 2 days, it's the grand opening of Lam Corp's new resort. That day, I want to utterly ruin Lam Wenkyo's reputation. Old Man Muck, a wicked glint in his eye, lunged towards her. As you wish, my dear. 2 days later, the Lam Corp resort officially opened. Lam Wenkyo stood at the podium, presiding over the ceremony. Welcome, everyone, to the grand opening of Lam Corp's new resort. Today, we sincerely invite you to experience a getaway far from the hustle and bustle of the city. Let nature wash away your weariness. We encourage you to share your experiences with your loved ones and friends. We'll be live streaming the entire event, ensuring complete transparency for our guests. Her speech was met with thunderous applause and a chorus of praise. I heard she's Lam Corp's newly appointed heir, someone whispered. She's clearly talented beyond her years. Another voice chimed in. The Lam family's eldest daughter truly lives up to her reputation. Agreement rippled through the crowd. Much better than those old fogies who ran LamCorp before. I think there's hope for the company now. Folk Tu Han, listening to the accolades, swelled with pride. Of course she is. Wouldn't you expect that from my wife? Fo Tu Han suddenly approached Nguyen Kyo, leaning in conspiratorially. Kyo, after you're done here, come find me in my room. I have a surprise for you. Curiosity piqued, she asked, what is it? Why so secretive? He simply smiled enigmatically. You'll find out when you get there. As Fo Tu Han returned to his room, he bumped into Tra Zan and her mother exiting the elevator. Mom, what's wrong? Tra Zan, feigning concern, turned to Fo Tu Han with a pleading look. Mr. Fo, could you please help me take my mother back to her room? I need to go find a doctor. Fo Tu Han, unsuspecting, readily agreed. Sure, I can do that, but hurry back. Tra Zan, feigning anxiety, thanked him profusely. I will. Thank you so much, Mr. Fo. As the elevator doors closed, a sinister smile crept across her face. Tra Zan sought out a doctor, one of her accomplices, and gave him instructions. Dr. Lam, you're the only doctor my mother trusts. You know what to do when you see Fo Tu Han, right? Dr. Lam smiled and nodded. Don't worry, Mississippi. Satisfied, she slipped him a thick envelope. This exchange was witnessed by Jung Vu, who happened to be passing by. He thought to himself, Lam Kyo, Fo Tu Han. Could they be connected to Lam when Kyo somehow? Meanwhile, Fo Tu Han, growing impatient waiting for Tra Zan to return, muttered, Where is she? Why hasn't she found a doctor yet? He went outside and looked around, but still couldn't see anyone. A sudden, sharp pain shot through his head, so he went to the sofa and sat down, hoping to rest. Fo Tu Han hadn't noticed anything unusual about the incense burner in the room. The more he inhaled, the more his head swam. Just then, Tra Zan returned with Dr. Lam. Mother, the doctor's here, she announced. He took the opportunity to ask Dr. Lam to check him over, wondering why he was so dizzy. After taking his pulse, the doctor replied nonchalantly, It's nothing, Mr. Fo, just a little anemia. He then pulled a chocolate bar from his pocket and offered it to him. Have a chocolate bar, Mr. Fo, then go back to your room and rest. You're probably still recovering from your recent illness. Unsuspecting, Fo Tu Han accepted the chocolate, ate it, and thanked the doctor. Watching him leave, the doctor smiled slyly. Meanwhile, Lam Nguyen Kyo was still busy attending to the guests. Your room is on the 9th floor, madam. I hope you have a pleasant and relaxing night. Her phone suddenly vibrated. She checked it and saw a message from Fo Tu Han. When you're finished with work, come to the pool. There's a surprise for you. Anticipation bubbled inside her. What's he up to now? Being all mysterious? She mused. Well, I'll humor him and see. With that, she pressed the elevator button and headed to the pool. At the same time, Fo Tu Han, having changed into his swimwear, arrived at the pool but couldn't see his future wife anywhere. Scratching his head, he wondered, where's Lam Nguyen Kyo? She called me here, but she's not even here herself. Suddenly, a pair of hands covered his eyes from behind with a mysterious black cloth. Assuming it was Nguyen Kyo, he chuckled. Haha, what a fun surprise. The woman leaned in and whispered teasingly in his ear, then led him towards the pool. Still oblivious, he said, Kyo, I can't see. You have to guide me, or I'll fall in. The mysterious woman smiled wickedly, but remained silent. She pressed closer to him, and together they plunged into the pool. Arriving at the scene, Nguyen Kyo watched with a sardonic expression. She managed to choke out, Fo Tu Han, what are you doing? Hearing her voice, he ripped off the blindfold as if struck by lightning. He realized he'd been set up. He looked up at her with innocent eyes. Kyo, it wasn't. He turned to the woman beside him, demanding, Why are you here? The one who messaged me was Kyo, not you. Though furious at seeing her man with another woman, Nguyen Kyo remained composed enough to sense something was amiss. Do you think these petty tricks can break us up? She asked the woman. The woman wrapped a robe around herself, feigning innocence and distress. But Mr. Fo has seen everything. Surely he'll take responsibility. Fo Tu Han's face hardened. This is all a scheme, he roared. The woman smirked and retorted slyly. Don't be so harsh. Weren't you enjoying yourself just now? He blushed, muttering, Don't talk nonsense. Wen Kyo's brow furrowed, her patience wearing thin. Tell me, she demanded, what was the purpose of luring us here? Was it for the title of Mrs. Fo? She scoffed. That's clearly impossible. The woman smirked, sidling up to Wen Kyo and stroking her face. Madame Fo is very clever. Of course, I know I can't rely on this to get that position. Wen Kyo cut straight to the chase. Tell me, how much money do you want? The woman, equally direct, named her price. 3 million. Wen Kyo's hand shot out, grabbing the woman's arm as she retorted with a laugh. I think you overestimate yourself. I give you the money, and then what? You use the video to keep extorting me? And if I refuse, you'll spread it to the four winds? Then make the Fo family support your bottomless pit until the end of time. The woman flinched, pulling her hand back. Surely Madame Fo wouldn't do something like that? Wen Kyo, her expression unwavering amidst the swirling drama, spoke with steely resolve. The LAMCorp Public Relations Department can offer you a position as a PR representative. We'll also cover all your expenses at the resort. However, according to company regulations, filming personal videos during work hours is a violation of labor laws. So what will it be? This job, or scraping by for the rest of your life? She then held up 3 fingers, naming a shockingly low counteroffer. 3,000. I'll give you 3,000. The woman gaped, stunned. She hadn't expected to be lowballed so drastically. Hesitating for a moment, she finally made her decision. All right, I'll save the clip to a USB drive tonight and give it to Madame Lam. Since Madame Lam insists, I'll be going now. As the scheming woman passed Wen Kyo, she gave a small, contemptuous smile, thinking to herself, what a naive little rich wife, thinking she's so smart. When they were alone, Fo Tu-han propped his chin on his hand, his voice a syrupy blend of exhaustion and attempted flattery. Kyo, you were so cool just now. Wen Kyo, exasperated with her contract husband, said flatly, you fell for such a simple trap? I can't believe what goes on in that head of yours. Fuming, she stormed off. Fo Tu-han, realizing his mistake, his face contorted with remorse, hurried after her. Kyo, wait for me. She angrily flung open a door, the force of her action making him flinch. Kyo, don't be mad at me anymore. Seeing 2 bathtubs before her, she was speechless with surprise. He moved closer, whispering in her ear, what's wrong, Madame Fo? Not satisfied with this surprise, she laughed, pushing his head away with her hand. You already had everything prepared in the room, and yet you still got tricked into coming to the pool. You really are an idiot. Ignoring her sarcasm, he lunged forward, embracing her from behind. His voice dripped with sweet nothings. Wasn't it because I was so happy to receive your message that I became a little muddled? Are you less angry now? I know you've had a long day, so I just wanted you to relax and unwind. As he spoke, he guided her towards the waiting bathtub. Try it out. It won't be good if the water gets cold. Exhausted from the day's events, Wen Kyo didn't refuse. She sank into the warm water, gazing at the moon and relaxing. Meanwhile, Fo Tu-han settled into the other tub. So how is it? Feeling relaxed? All the day's tiredness just melting away? Just breathing in this fresh air, feeling the gentle breeze, looking up at the starry sky, and sipping some champagne, pure bliss. At his enthusiastic sales pitch, Wen Kyo chuckled. LAMCorp should hire you as their development ambassador, Mr. Fo. You're quite the salesman. He grinned back. Young Master Fo is a rare commodity, you know. She followed his lead, teasingly joining in. So, Mr. Fo, how much money do you want? Fo Tu-han started to say something, but abruptly stopped. Confused, she asked, Fo Tu-han, what's wrong? Suddenly, 2 wolf ears sprouted on his head, his expression darkening. Wen Kyo gasped, bewildered. You're transforming? But there's no full moon tonight. Just then, a knock echoed from the door. Annoyed, she called out, who is it? She quickly redressed. When she turned back, he was gone. Wen Kyo sighed in exasperation. Outside the door, Trazan and her mother had been waiting. The moment the door opened, they launched into a performance of shared sympathy. Sister, Mother and I heard about what happened with Mr. Fo at the pool. We came to see if you're all right. Men are all like that, dear. Don't take it to heart. The sudden visit stunned Wen Kyo momentarily, but her sharp mind quickly pieced together who was pulling the strings. Wen Kyo immediately put on a heartbroken facade, covering her face and sobbing dramatically. I can't believe Fo Tu-han would be so unfaithful. Sobi. Trazan's mother, practically beaming, feigned concern. Dear, we just want to make sure you were okay. If you're all right, then we'll leave you be. Closing the door Anxiety flooded Nguyen Kyo. Fo Tu Han, please be safe, she whispered, her heart heavy with worry. The next day, the sun climbed high, but there was still no sign of him. Staring into the empty space before her, she murmured anxiously, Fo Tu Han, why haven't you come back? A knock startled her. It was Lam Hai, her face etched with urgency. Madam Kyo, something terrible has happened. A guest claims they were attacked by a werewolf last night. The reporters are swarming the hotel lobby downstairs. When Kyo's blood ran cold. Could it be him? She thought, her mind racing. She remembered his words from the previous night. I can't involve you. I'll hide in the forest until morning. Once I'm back to normal, I'll return. Shaking her head, she dismissed her initial fear. No, it can't be. Fo Tu Han would never do something like that. Quickly changing into a presentable outfit, she headed for the lobby. No matter what, we need to face this head on. Lam Hai trailed behind her, worried. Madam Kyo, are you sure about this? Maybe I should stall the reporters while you escape through the back. When Kyo turned, her expression serious. Lam Hai, remember this. We didn't cause this, and we have nothing to fear. If we run, it will only make us look guilty. As she stepped into the lobby, a throng of reporters surged forward, bombarding her with questions. Madam Lam, a guest was attacked by a werewolf. What do you have to say? Why is there a werewolf at your resort? Werewolves have been extinct for years. Is this a publicity stunt by Lam Corp? Faced with a barrage of questions, Wen Kyo maintained her composure. She confidently addressed the media. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, please allow me a few words. The incident that occurred is absolutely not something Lam Corporation wanted to see, but we absolutely will not shirk our responsibility. Regardless of whether this was a malicious act or an unintentional oversight, Lam Corporation will provide the public with a satisfactory explanation. Please give us a little more time to investigate. Thank you. Another reporter quickly interrupted. But this is already trending. I'm afraid Miss Lam won't have much time. Just as the reporter finished speaking, the police arrived with an official notice. Miss Lam, we've received information that the resort owned by Lam Corporation is connected to a case of malicious injury. Currently, based on relevant regulations, we will be implementing a lockdown. We ask for your cooperation. As the officer began to seal off the area, when Kyo stepped forward to stop him. Officer, are you mistaken? This matter hasn't been thoroughly investigated yet. On what grounds are you imposing a lockdown? The officer, instead of reasoning, raised his voice. Miss Lam, are you obstructing justice? Lam Hai, fearing the situation would escalate, quickly pulled Nguyen Kyo aside. Excuse us, officer, we'll leave immediately. Lam Hai whispered to Nguyen Kyo. Kyo, let's go first. This doesn't seem so simple. We need to go back and discuss this carefully. Meanwhile, at Old Man Muck's house, Lam Kyo's cries of pleasure could be heard from outside the window. Old Man Muck, clearly enjoying himself, said, Kyo, you're quite cooperative tonight. Trazan responded coquettishly. Mr. Muck, after you've helped Kyo release so much tension, how could she not feel grateful and want to repay you? He coaxed her, serve me well, and all the Lam family's wealth will be yours. Trazan let him have his way, her heart filled with ambition. But I want to strike while the iron is hot. I want to make sure Lam, Wen Kyo, and Fo Tu Han never recover. Her ambition pleased Old Man Muck immensely. You truly are the woman I thought you were. He quickly grabbed his phone and barked orders to his subordinates. Tell the Hunter organization that the werewolf that attacked people at the resort is connected to the Fo family. Hanging up, he leered at the woman before him, his mouth practically watering. How should Kyo thank me for this? Trazan giggled coyly. As long as Mr. Muck is happy, she thought to herself, filled with hatred. As long as Lam Wen Kyo loses everything, I'm willing to do anything. Wen Kyo, while waiting for the elevator, was lost in thought, piecing together the events. The incident had quickly become trending news, followed swiftly by the police lockdown. Everything had happened too fast. It felt orchestrated. This is definitely not a coincidence. But who could have such influence over the resort project, the media, and the police? She pushed open the door to her room and noticed a figure in the darkness. She grabbed the nearest umbrella, ready to defend herself. Who's there? Who is lying there? A weak voice, Fo Tu Han's, came from the shadows. Kyo, it's me. Hearing the familiar voice, she dropped the umbrella and rushed towards the sound. Worried, when Kyo helped him sit up. Fo Tu Han, what happened to you? He slowly opened his eyes and recounted in a weak voice. Last night, while I was in the forest, I saw someone capturing wolf pups and releasing them into the living room. I suspect someone is plotting to harm you. His words touched Nwenkio, but also filled her with dread. You're in this state, and you're still thinking about me? Don't worry about me. She struggled to help him back to his room to rest. After wiping him down, Nwenkio pulled the covers over him so he could rest. A knock echoed from the door. The late hour made her wary. Who could it be at this time? She pulled open a drawer, retrieving a weapon she kept hidden there for protection. Holding it behind her back, she cautiously approached the door and opened it. 3 men in black stood outside. They were members of the priest's organization, Werewolf Hunters. Nwenkio feigned composure. Who are you looking for? One of them produced a badge, identifying themselves. We are werewolf hunters. We received reports of a werewolf attack at the resort, injuring someone. Our intelligence suggests Fo Tu-han is involved. We need to take him in for questioning. Nwenkio's heart pounded in her chest. Could Tu-han's identity have been exposed? No, it can't be. Who would target him? And Lam Corporation. She forced a smile, feigning ignorance. I don't understand what you're talking about. You must have the wrong person. Please leave. Seeing they were about to force their way in, she brandished her weapon, ready to fight. Just then, Madame Fo's voice rang out beside her. Q. Don't be disrespectful to the priest's representatives. Nwenkio, astonished, turned. Mother, why are you here? Madame Fo stepped forward and gently took the weapon from her hand. It's all right. Leave this to me. Priest Hunters, it's been a while. What evidence do you have that my son is responsible for the incident at the resort? Or has the Hunter organization become so hasty that they can arrest someone without any proof? Not waiting for a response, Madame Fo continued. 3 days. Give us 3 days. If we, the Fo family, cannot find the true culprit behind the incident at the resort, I will personally hand over my son to your organization. But if you insist on taking him today, without regard for right or wrong, Madame Fo's voice hardened. Let me remind you, the Fo family's influence, cultivated over many years, is not merely for show. The leader said nothing, only stared intently at Nwenkio. Then he agreed to Madame Fo's terms. Very well, 3 days. I trust Madame Fo will keep her word. Let's go. Only after they had left did Nwenkio's tense nerves begin to relax. Madame Fo asked with concern, Kyo, are you all right? You must be frightened. Nwenkio shook her head. I'm fine, mother. But don't you think all these events are too interconnected? Madame Fo, half understanding, asked, What do you mean? Instead of answering immediately, Nwenkio recalled her encounter with Trazan and her mother the previous night. Their visit seemed too strange, too coincidental. Suspicion growing, she turned to the purple-haired young man. Tan, there's something I need your help investigating. The young man readily agreed. Certainly, what is it? After settling everything, Nwenkio returned to her room and cared for Fo Tu-han throughout the night. The next day, as she slept soundly, she was awakened by the ringing of her phone. Not wanting to disturb Fo Tu-han's rest, she stepped outside before answering. Hello, Tan. It's me. The young man with purple hair quickly relayed his findings. Sister-in-law, my men have been following Lam Kyo, and she's been seen entering the Muck family's house multiple times recently. It's unclear if she's conspiring with them. Understood, Nwenkio replied. Thank you. Please continue to keep an eye on her for me. She hung up, a pensive expression clouding her face as she gazed out the window. Her phone rang again. Lam Hai, what is it? Could it be that public relations couldn't contain the media? Lam Hai's voice came through, strained. It's not that, Sister Kyo. Mukti announced the grand opening of their resort project today. And wouldn't you know it, their concept is practically identical to ours. With what happened at our resort, this is playing right into their hands. When Kyo's suspicions were confirmed, Lam Kyo's visits to the Muck family coincided with the incident at the Lam Resort, followed immediately by the opening of Mukti's competing project. It seems I need to return to the Lam family home, she decided. Later that afternoon at the Lam family villa, Trazan was surprised to see Nwenkio upon entering the house. Sister, what are you doing back here? You didn't even let us know you were coming. Nwenkio feigned indifference. What are you talking about? Since when do I need to announce my arrival in my own home? She then took Trazan's hand with a saccharine smile, pulling her toward the platter of fruit. Come, sister dear, have a seat. Aunt Lam, just cut these fruits. Have some. Trazan winced, pulling her hand back sharply. When Kyo put on an innocent expression. What's wrong, sister? I barely used any force. Trazan quickly pulled her sleeve down as if trying to hide something. It's nothing. I'm just a little tired. I'll go to my room now. Watching Trazan's retreating figure, Wen Kyo felt a knot of dread in her stomach. She knew something was wrong. Kyo, Kyo, she called out, her voice laced with concern. No matter how much you hate me, it's not worth it to put yourself in that kind of danger. Do you understand? Trazan stiffened. She turned back, forcing a smile. You think too highly of yourself, sister. We're both Lamb daughters. Everything you have, I have share in. Why would I hate you? Trazan's expression suddenly changed. She stepped forward and gripped Wen Kyo's chin. Or are you saying that you're not getting enough attention from Fotu Han and want to come back and steal what's mine? Wen Kyo grabbed Trazan's sleeve, pulling it up to reveal a series of injuries on her arm. And what about this? Wen Kyo voiced her suspicions. I know you're involved with old man Muck, but you know what kind of man he is. Why would you put yourself in this position just to compete with me? Is it really worth it? Trazan dropped the pretense. Of course it's worth it. Since we were young, we've both been Lamb daughters, but why do you get all the good things, all the glory? She poured out years of resentment. And what about me? If I want something, I have to steal it. Even when I wanted shares in Lamb Corporation, I had to rely on old man Muck. Wen Kyo led her on. So you colluded with outsiders to leak confidential documents about the resort project and then orchestrated the werewolf attack to sabotage Lamb TS Resort. Is that right? Trazan, with casual ease, admitted it. Yes, that's right. I did all of that. She laughed derisively at Wen Kyo. Lamb Wen Kyo, you lost. Look at you now, just like a stray dog bullied outside, scurrying back home. She returned to her room, a triumphant air about her, calling out loudly before she left. You lost. Lamb Wen Kyo, you lost. Trazan was completely unaware that Wen Kyo had recorded everything she said. She felt utterly victorious, her return to the Lamb family estate proving worthwhile. The next day, she and Lam Hai went to the hospital to visit Mr. Tran, who had been injured by the werewolf. Mr. Tran, regarding your injuries, the Lamb Corporation is deeply sorry. We will take full responsibility for your hospital bills and lost wages. Furthermore, we will find the true culprit within 3 days and hand them over to the police to ensure justice is served. His wife refused to listen to any explanation, shoving them both out of the room. Who told you to pretend to be kind? You and that faux family werewolf conspire to hurt people. Aren't you afraid your ancestors will haunt you in your dreams? She added, those two young ladies were right. You are truly a woman with a venomous heart. Lam Hai was furious at these baseless accusations and was about to retort when Wen Kyo stopped her. Please take good care of Mr. Tran. We will visit again. Sister Kyo, Lam Hai said, they're clearly being unreasonable. Why are you being so polite to them? Wen Kyo voiced her suspicions. Didn't you notice the slip-up in their words? She repeated the woman's words. Those two young ladies were right. Lam Hai finally understood. Sister Kyo, do you mean those two were planted by the two young ladies? Wen Kyo was about to say something when they were swarmed by reporters. Miss Lam, we hear you haven't received forgiveness from the victim's family. Is that true? Do you have no regard for human life? Aren't you afraid of your conscience? Suddenly, a jacket was thrown over her head, covering her face. Pulling the jacket back, she saw, to her surprise, that it was Fotu Han. He whispered, Shh, don't say anything. Let me get you out of here. Ignoring the chaos, he carefully led her away, leaving Lam Hai and the purple-haired young man to deal with the reporters. Once they were in the car, she asked anxiously, Fotu Han, you're awake? Why didn't you tell me before coming here directly? He gently stroked her head, his expression pained. If I hadn't woken up, I'm afraid those reporters would have eaten you alive. While I was still partially transformed and losing consciousness, I saw someone sneaking a small fox from the forest into your resort. When Kyo's eyes widened. You're sure it was a small fox? No wonder Mr. Tran's wounds looked so strange to me. Realization dawned. So that's what happened. She turned to him, indignation burning in her voice. Let's go to the police station right now. At the station, after reviewing the evidence, the officer said, Miss Lam, the photos of the wounds and the recording you provided cannot be considered direct evidence. Wen Kyo, walking ahead, turned back and replied firmly, which is why I'm taking you to the scene to find the real evidence. Miss Lam, are you joking? One of the officers asked. We've already thoroughly investigated the first crime scene and found nothing. Wen Kyo pointed towards a nearby room. You're assuming this room is the primary crime scene, aren't you? But shouldn't the wooded area on the mountainside, facing the balcony, also be investigated? The officers, momentarily stunned, seemed to grasp her meaning. Are you suggesting Fo Tu-han coached you on what to say to convince us? Another officer questioned. There's an ancient tree on the mountain slope, Wen Kyo explained, and within its roots, there's a cave. If I'm not mistaken, it's a fox den. I told the police to search within a 5-kilometer radius, and I'm certain they'll find something. She pointed confidently towards the mountain. The clue is on that slope. The two officers followed her towards the mountain. After a short trek, she located the ancient tree Fo Tu-han had described. I found it, she exclaimed. Beneath the roots, a small opening was visible. This is the entrance to the den. Officer, if you wouldn't mind, please conduct a thorough search within a 5-kilometer radius. I believe you'll find something, Wen Kyo urged. The officer, his face serious, replied with a hint of skepticism. Miss Nguyen, are you aware that if your information is false, you could be charged with obstruction of justice? This is a serious offense. Wen Kyo remained unfazed. I'm willing to accept full legal responsibility, she declared, silently reassuring herself. Fo Tu-han, I trust you. One of the officers went to investigate. After a thorough search, the officer returned to report. Captain, he announced, we've investigated the den. It is indeed a fox den. Furthermore, we found footprints leading from the den to the crime scene. Preliminary analysis suggests they belong to a woman, but we'll need to conduct soil analysis for confirmation. The officers looked suspiciously at Wen Kyo, but she feigned innocence. You don't suspect I brought a fox here to harm my own clients, do you, officer? She asked quickly. All right, I understand. The officer conceded. We will thoroughly investigate Fo Tu-han's complaint, as well as the circumstances surrounding this case. We'll inform you of our findings. Wen Kyo bowed her head in relief. Thank you, officers. Please be careful. News of the discovery quickly reached Old Man Muck. He unleashed his fury on Trazan. You stupid girl. How could you be so foolish as to go there yourself? Trazan, tears welling in her eyes, tried to explain. I was just afraid that if more people found out, it would be even more dangerous. Old Man Muck's anger intensified. Anyone who undertakes a serious task must be ruthless. Don't you understand that dead men tell no tales? Trazan struggled against his grip. I didn't think it would have to go that far. Exhausted, Old Man Muck released her. Forget it, he sighed. What's done is done. Now we can only pray those werewolf hunters don't come knocking anytime soon. He looked at Lam Kyo, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. After all, she was just a 20-year-old heiress. What could she possibly know about the harsh realities of the business world? He pinched the bridge of his nose, deciding to let it go. Get up, the floor is cold. Lam Kyo, clutching her injured side, limped towards him, trying to appease him. Your guidance is wise, sir. I won't disappoint you. Old Man Muck let out a chilling chuckle and turned back to Trazan. All right, I'll teach you slowly. Suddenly, a cold voice boomed from the doorway, causing him to whip around in terror, sweat beading on his forehead. Muck Koi-min, you seem to be enjoying yourself. You misreported everything, causing the organization to silently endure the wrath of the Fo family. Do you know what your crime is? Old Man Muck knelt down, fear etched on his face. High Priest, please hear me out. Fo Tu-han truly is a werewolf. When he pressured me, he inadvertently revealed his wolf eyes. The High Priest viciously kicked him in the shoulder. Baseless talk. I've come here to punish you for this careless misinformation. He coldly commanded, someone seize her. Lam Kyo, unaware of the gravity of the situation, knelt and pleaded for Old Man Muck. High Priest, please spare him. This whole affair is because of... She was about to continue when Old Man Muck glared at her. This is no place for you to interfere. Get back to your room. Trazan, startled by the raised voices, froze in fear. Tears streaming down her face, she carried her resentment as she fled back to her room. The High Priest sneered. I didn't realize you still had a conscience. Without another word, he sliced Old Man Muck's little finger in two. This is just a temporary warning. If you fail again, it will be your head that rolls. Old Man Muck cradled his injured hand, trembling as he stammered his obedience. After they left, he poured his hatred onto the two he blamed. Lam Wen Kyo, Fo Tu-han, I won't let you get away with this. Meanwhile, far from the city center, a couple lounged on a sunny beach. I'm so sorry. It's my mother's fault for insisting we take this vacation. It's affecting your work. She closed her eyes, basking in the sun and the natural beauty around her. Mom was right. We need to stay out of sight of the Hunters organization for a while. Think of it as a vacation for you two. Tuhan glanced at his vibrating phone on the table, his voice laced with displeasure. But your phone keeps buzzing. This isn't a very romantic getaway. When she didn't respond, he looked over to see her fast asleep. A soft smile touched his lips. But being able to watch you like this isn't so bad either. I bet you'll be touched by my surprise tonight, Kaka. Later that afternoon, he mysteriously blindfolded her and led her towards the beach. She stumbled along, curious. Fotuhan, what on earth are you up to? Where are you taking me? He played coy. You'll see soon enough. Don't rush. We're almost there. Ahead, on the beach, was a barbecue he had meticulously prepared. He patted her shoulder, satisfied. All right, we're here. Fotuhan gently removed the blindfold. Nguyen was speechless at the sight before her. He asked, well, surprised? She nodded happily, a smile of pure joy illuminating her face. When did you prepare all of this? He shrugged, a confident grin spreading across his face. While you were sleeping on the plane, watching him carefully grill the food for her, Nguyen felt a warmth and happiness she had never known. Her gaze remained fixed on him. No one had ever treated her with such genuine care before. If only she didn't have more important matters to attend to. She glanced at the setting sun, allowing herself a moment of relaxation. Maybe just for these few days, I can forget about revenge and simply enjoy this time with Fotuhan. After a satisfying meal, he led her on a stroll along the seashore. The two of them even playfully splashed in the waves. He pointed out the breathtaking sunset painting the horizon, a scene so idyllic it was. Enough to make even Nguyen gush with unrestrained praise. So beautiful, she exclaimed. But the beauty of the setting was only amplified by his next action, which surprised her even more. With utter sincerity, Fotuhan knelt on one knee, producing a necklace. Kyo, he began, his voice deep with emotion. I admit, at first, I had ulterior motives for entering into this marriage contract with you. But after spending so much time together, I find I can't be without you. Let's make this pretend engagement a reality. Caught between a blush and a stammer, unsure how to respond to his heartfelt confession, Kyo was saved by the sudden ringing of her phone. Seizing the opportunity to escape the intensity of the moment, she said, "Excuse me, I need to take this." She hurried away, her hasty retreat resembling a flight. He watched her go, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. Could it be she's still not ready? He wondered. His face darkened, his romantic overture interrupted. He pulled out his own phone and dialed. Hello, Athwan. I need you to investigate something. Find out who's been constantly seeking out Kyo at the company lately. A few days later, at Lam Corporation, Fotuhan arrived impeccably dressed, his black attire only enhancing his striking presence. Lost in thought as he walked, he mused. Athwan said it's the marketing director. I want to see what kind of demon this director is daring to poach on my territory. As he passed by an office, he overheard the gossiping of a group of women. Did you hear? Director Trin from marketing stepped in to help Miss Lam when she was being grilled by Mr. Lam in the meeting earlier. You should have seen how cool Director Trin looked. Another woman chimed in. I know, right? Director Trin is so handsome, and he's so capable, unlike a certain young master who only knows how to play around. Another agreed, exactly. What does that Fotuhan, the faux family heir, have besides his family's wealth? He can't compare to our Director Trin. I agree, another whispered. Director Trin and Miss Lam are a much better match. These words chilled him to the bone. He removed his glasses, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Am I really that inadequate? He wondered quietly. Inside his own office, Nguyen was discussing something with Director Trin. The way Director Trin looked at her was markedly different from how he looked at others. After reviewing the proposal, she beamed. Class President, you're amazing. Only you could come up with this development strategy. Knowing you for so many years, how could I not understand your requirements and thoughts for this project? He replied, winking playfully. She laughed, a genuine, carefree sound. It's always so easy and efficient working with you, class president. Hidden behind the door, Fo Tuhan witnessed their entire exchange. A pang of something akin to defeat resonated within him. He had never seen her smile so brightly, so unguardedly. He didn't interrupt, simply turning and leaving Lamb Corporation, stepping out into the falling rain. The cold droplets seemed to mirror the chill settling in his heart. So, it was all just my wishful thinking? The next day, while Kyo was engrossed in her work, Mrs. Fo called, her voice laced with worry. Kyo, I haven't been able to reach Tu-Han all day. Could you go check on him at his apartment? I really don't have time to go over there right now. Nguyen Kyo immediately agreed. Of course, Annie. I'll go right now. Hanging up, she grabbed her purse and hurried out. What is Fo Tuhan up to now? She muttered to herself. He's been acting strange since yesterday. I hope he's all right. Meanwhile, Fo Tuhan lay in bed, covers pulled over his head. He was still bothered by the scene he'd witnessed the day before. He'd gone to all that trouble arranging the beachside surprise, but he hadn't seen Wen-Kyo smile like that. Grumbling to himself, he received a text from his mother. Kyo is on her way to your apartment now. This is all I can do to help you, son. He bolted upright in bed, aghast. What? She's coming here now? This is a disaster. I reek of sweat. I need a shower, and fast. He just finished showering and stepped out of the bathroom when he saw her appear in his apartment. Feigning indifference, he asked, "What are you doing here?" Worried that he might be ill and had showered despite his condition. When Kyo reached out to place her hand on his forehead, checking his temperature. "Fotuhan, you have a fever and you're taking a shower?" He sulkily dodged her hand. "Yes, I'm crazy. Not as smart as your class president, who can clearly help you better." Confused, she replied, "Are you delirious from the fever? What are you talking about?" Suddenly, without a word, he stepped closer, startling her. His enviable six-pack abs made her blush. "Get off me. I'm burning up." Her words only fueled his frustration. Fuming, he retorted, Right. I'm hot. And your class president is cool as ice, I suppose? He's your personal cooling pad, isn't he? He slumped onto the sofa, sulking. Wen-Kyo couldn't understand his erratic behavior, but she brought him his medicine. "Here, take this and go lie down. I'll make you some porridge." Fo Tu-Han remained silent, taking the medicine and swallowing it down. Noticing his damp hair, she thoughtfully grabbed a towel and began drying it for him. "You didn't even dry your hair? You'll catch a cold." He angrily tossed the towel aside. "You still care whether my hair is dry or not, whether I have a fever or not." When Kyo froze, utterly bewildered. Why is this young master acting like he's heartbroken, not just sick? While she busied herself making porridge, he spoke up. "When Kyo, when you were in university, was your class president really that popular?" Unsure why he was suddenly bringing up her class president, she answered casually, "Probably. He had good grades, was handsome, and very gentle. I'm sure most girls liked him." A shadow of disappointment crossed Fo Tu-Han's face. "When Kyo," he said, "if you have someone you like, we can get a divorce. Don't worry, I'll still help you get revenge on the Lamb family." She didn't respond to his offer, silently continuing to cook the porridge. Once it was done, she placed a bowl on the table. "The porridge is ready. Try to rest. I'll be going now." He didn't try to stop her, lying listlessly on the sofa, covering his face with his hand as if to hide his emotions. She's already leaving the apartment, when Kyo's mind raced, trying to understand his sudden mention of divorce. A heavy feeling settled in her chest. She pulled out her phone and called her friend. "Hello, Lee Chun-chun. Where are you right now? I'm coming to see you." When she arrived at the address her friend had sent, she was surprised to see a young man with purple hair there as well. Lai Tran, seeing her, quickly pushed the young man away, putting some distance between them. Kyo, you're here. Come sit down." Sensing something was amiss, Lai Tran pointed at the two of them. "All right, fess up. What's going on between you two?" She stopped abruptly, handing Wen-Kyo a glass of champagne. "What's wrong? You sought me out. Something's up, isn't it?" Wen-Kyo accepted the glass and drained it without a word. Tran, she began, "Do you think men have mood swings like we do?" Fo Tu-Han was so sweet before, but these past 2 days he's been incredibly cold. She hesitated, tears welling in her eyes. "He even told me that if I had someone I liked, I could divorce him." The purple-haired young man beside Lai Tran shot up in disbelief. "What? He said that?" The young man started to defend Fo Tu-Han, but Lai Tran glared at him. "You be quiet and get out." Once he was gone, she turned back to Wen-Kyo. "So, do you actually want a divorce? You know Fo Tu-Han's feelings for you are real." When Kyo poured herself another glass of champagne, her expression melancholic. Fo Tu-Han's reputation as a playboy precedes him. You really believe he likes me? We have a marriage contract, that's all. Can't he even stand me for 2 years? Now he wants to kick me to the curb. And all that flowery talk about letting me go if I find someone else. I bet sooner or later he'll be doing the same thing with another girl. Her misunderstanding of Fo Tu Han deepened. Watching when Kyo drink glass after glass, Lai Tran panicked. Oh no, I forgot she can't hold her liquor. Slightly tipsy, when Kyo grabbed a microphone, ready to unleash her pent-up frustrations, making her friend freeze, worried that others might overhear. Clearly, I'm the one getting the short end of the stick in this contract. 2 years later, after the divorce, I'll have to find a second husband, while he'll just move on to another girl. She continued her rant. Now that Mr. Fo is interested in me, am I supposed to thank my lucky stars and rush to his side? And what happens when he loses interest? He'll just kick me to the curb, right? Tran, do you think I'm that cheap? As an outsider, Lai Tran had a clearer perspective. She snatched the microphone. Kyo, have you noticed something? Her next words gave Wen Kyo pause. I've noticed you've been talking about Fo Tu Han a lot lately. If you don't believe me, just go back and look at her messages. You're always talking about him. Wen Kyo's eyes suddenly lit up as if her friend's words had unlocked a hidden truth. In that moment, she realized where her heart truly belonged.